The branch director's face went completely white. His hands trembled as he reached for the phone on his desk, and I watched him exchange a look with the woman beside him, the company attorney, that made my stomach drop through the floor. They had brought me into this private conference room 20 minutes ago. Now they looked like they were about to call the police. "Miss Lawson," the director said, his voice careful and controlled, "I need you to understand the seriousness of what I am about to tell you. This policy is active. The claim value is approximately $1.8 million. I could not breathe. I could not think. $1.8 million. From an insurance policy my sister had thrown in the trash 3 days ago. "But there is a problem," he continued. "Someone has been trying to steal it from you for the past 3 years. He placed a folder on the table between us, opened it, pointed to a signature line on a form that had been rejected and stamped in red ink. "Do you recognize this name? Ashley Lawson. My sister. My own sister. She had called this policy worthless garbage. She had laughed when she threw it away at our grandmother's funeral reception, tossing it into the trash like a used napkin. Turns out some garbage is worth more than our entire family ever had, and someone was willing to commit fraud to take it. But I am getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Brittany Lawson. I am 33 years old, and until that morning at the insurance company, I thought the most exciting part of my week would be convincing my landlord to finally fix the leak under my kitchen sink. I work as an administrative assistant at a regional logistics company in Cleveland, Ohio, Henderson and Cole Services. You have never heard of it. Nobody has. We process shipping invoices and pretend that matters. The job is not glamorous. The pay is modest. My car is a 10-year-old Honda Civic with a dent in the passenger door that I have been meaning to fix for 2 years. My apartment is small, clean, and quiet, with a view of a parking lot and walls thin enough to hear my neighbor's television every night. I eat lunch at my desk most days. I meal prep on Sundays. I read paperback mysteries before bed and fall asleep by 10. I live a quiet life. Some people would call it boring. I call it stable. But there is one thing about me that has always caused problems in my family. I read everything. Contracts, receipts, fine print, terms and conditions, the paragraphs of tiny text that everyone else scrolls past without a second thought. I ask questions when numbers do not add up. I keep records. I do not sign anything without understanding exactly what I am agreeing to. At work, I am the one who catches invoice errors, spots missing signatures, notices when dates do not match. My coworkers think it is useful. They call me the detail queen, and they mean it as a compliment. My family thinks it is annoying. They call me paranoid, suspicious, difficult. I call it paying attention. I did not know it then, standing in that insurance office with my world turning upside down. But this habit, this annoying, paranoid, difficult habit, was exactly why my grandmother chose me. In my family, there are 2 daughters, the golden one and the other one. I am the other one. I have always been the other one. Growing up, my sister Ashley was the performer. School plays, dance recitals, student council president, homecoming court, the works. She learned early that attention was currency, and she collected it like other kids collected stickers. Every room she walked into became her stage. Every conversation became her spotlight. I was the quiet one. Good grades, no trouble, no drama. I did my homework, kept my head down, and tried not to take up too much space. Teachers forgot my name by the end of the semester. My mother forgot my birthday twice. Not forgot, exactly. She remembered eventually. She just remembered Ashley's first. There is a specific memory that I carry with me, even now, my 16th birthday. I came home from school expecting something, anything, and found the house empty. No cake, no decorations, no card on the table. My mother had taken Ashley shopping for a dress for some school event and lost track of time. She apologized later, said she got confused with dates. But 3 months later, Ashley turned 14, and there was a catered party in our backyard with 50 guests and a custom dress and a photographer. My mother never confused Ashley's dates. I learned something important that year. I learned that some people are seen and some people are invisible. And I learned which one I was. I was not angry about it anymore. Not really. I had made peace with being the background daughter, the one who showed up and did the right thing, and never asked for anything because asking meant being disappointed. I had built a life that did not depend on their approval. I had my apartment, my job, my routines. Or so I thought. The thing about being invisible is that you learn to watch. You see things that people who are being watched never notice. You catch the glances, the whispers, the tiny betrayals that happen in plain sight because no one thinks you are paying attention. I saw how Ashley looked at our grandmother when she thought no one was watching, calculating, measuring, like she was trying to figure out what she could get. And I saw how our grandmother looked back, sharp eyes that missed nothing. Waiting. My grandmother was Margaret Lawson. She was 82 years old when she died, and she was the only person in my family who ever made me feel like I existed. She was a widow, had been for decades. My grandfather Franklin passed away before I was born, so I never knew him except through photographs and the stories Margaret told. She lived alone in a small Cape Cod house in Lakewood, a suburb just west of Cleveland, with a garden she maintained herself until her hip gave out last year. Margaret was a retired bookkeeper. She had worked for a manufacturing company for 35 years, tracking numbers, balancing ledgers, finding discrepancies that other people missed. Numbers were her language. She used to say she could smell a math error from across the room. Everyone assumed she had nothing, just an old woman living on Social Security and whatever savings she had scraped together. She dressed simply. She drove the same car for 15 years. She clipped coupons from the Sunday paper and brought her own bags to the grocery store. She never asked anyone for money. She never complained about being broke. She paid her bills on time every time, and if you asked her how she was doing, she would smile and say she was doing just fine. Looking back, I should have wondered how. I visited her once a month, sometimes more. Not because anyone asked me to or expected me to, but because I wanted to. We would sit in her small kitchen with cups of tea between us, and she would ask me about my life. Not my job, not my plans, not whether I was seeing anyone. My life. How I was feeling, what I was thinking, what made me happy. She never compared me to Ashley. She never asked why I was not married or promoted or more successful. She just listened. And when I talked, she looked at me like what I was saying actually mattered. Over the past year, she had started saying things that seemed strange at the time. Small comments that I did not know how to interpret. She would look at me with those sharp eyes and say things like, "You are the careful one, Brittany. That is rare." Or, "Most people believe what they want to believe. You believe what you can prove." I thought it was just grandmother wisdom. The kind of thing old people say when they are feeling philosophical. Then, 2 months before she died, she said something I could not forget. I was visiting her at the house, sitting in her kitchen like always, and she reached across the table and took my hand. Her grip was surprisingly strong for a woman her age. Her eyes locked onto mine and she said, "When I am gone, they will tell you I left nothing. Don't believe them." I asked her what she meant. She just smiled, that knowing smile that always made me feel like she could see right through me. "Promise me you will come when they call you, and promise me you will not believe everything they tell you." I promised. I did not understand why, but I promised. The phone call came on a Tuesday night. I was in my apartment making dinner, nothing special, just pasta with jarred sauce and whatever vegetables were about to go bad in my refrigerator. The television was on in the background, some reality show I was not really watching, and my phone buzzed on the counter. My mother's number. I almost did not answer. Calls from Karen were rarely good news. They were usually complaints about something I had done wrong or requests for favors that somehow never got returned, or updates about Ashley's latest achievement that I was supposed to be impressed by. But something made me pick up. Her voice was flat, businesslike, the way she sounds when she is handling something unpleasant and wants to get it over with as quickly as possible. "Your grandmother passed away this morning. The funeral is Thursday at 2. Greenwood Chapel. Do not be late. Click. The call ended. No, I am sorry. No, are you okay? No, I know you loved her. Just logistics. Scheduling. Do not be late. That was my mother's way of handling death. Handle it like an appointment. Move on. I stood in my kitchen with the phone still in my hand, and the pasta water boiling over on the stove. I did not notice until the hissing sound broke through the fog in my head. I turned off the burner, sat down at my small kitchen table. Let myself feel it. My grandmother was gone. The only person in my family who made me feel seen. The only person who asked how I was doing and actually wanted to hear the answer. She was gone, and I was alone. That night, I could not sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about the last time I saw her, thinking about the things she said that I did not understand. When I am gone, they will tell you I left nothing. Don't believe them. What did that mean? What was she trying to tell me? Around 11, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text from Ashley. Mom says you might have some of Grandma's old papers. If you find anything, let me know. I am handling the estate stuff. I frowned at the screen. I did not have any of Grandmother's papers. Why would Ashley think I did? Before I could respond, another text came through. 1 minute later, actually, don't worry about the papers. I am sure there is nothing important. Grandma didn't really have anything anyway. The quick correction, the reassurance that came too fast. The sudden need to make sure I was not looking for anything. I knew my sister. I knew how she operated. She did not send midnight texts unless something was bothering her. She did not mention papers unless papers mattered. I did not respond. I just lay there in the dark, turning those messages over in my mind. My sister was already managing the narrative. Before the body was even cold. I should have known then. The way Ashley texted me at midnight, the way she mentioned papers and then immediately dismissed them, the way her reassurance felt more like a warning than a comfort. But I did not know yet what was hidden. I did not know what my grandmother had left behind. I did not know about the insurance policy, the fraud, the 5 years of documentation, the trail that would lead me here, to an insurance office where a director was calling his legal department because my sister had tried to steal nearly $2 million. I only knew one thing that night, lying awake in my apartment with my sister's texts glowing on my phone. Ashley was nervous, and Ashley Lawson was never nervous unless she had something to hide. Greenwood Chapel sat on a quiet street in the suburbs of Cleveland, a mid-sized funeral home with beige siding and a parking lot that could hold maybe 50 cars. I arrived at 1:45, 15 minutes early, because my mother had made it very clear that I should not be late. The sky was overcast, threatening rain that never came, and the air had that heavy stillness that makes everything feel like it is waiting for something to happen. I parked my Honda at the far end of the lot and sat there for a moment, hands on the steering wheel, trying to steady myself. I was wearing my only black dress, something I had bought for a work conference 3 years ago. It still fit. I had not gained or lost weight in years. My life was that consistent, that predictable. The only jewelry I wore was a small silver necklace my grandmother had given me for my 21st birthday, a delicate chain with a tiny pendant in the shape of a book. She said she gave it to me because I was always reading, always paying attention. I touched it now, feeling the cool metal against my collarbone, and wished I could feel her hand on mine one more time. I walked toward the entrance and noticed something strange. No one was crying outside. No one was hugging. People stood in small clusters near the door, checking their phones, glancing at their watches, talking in low voices about things that had nothing to do with grief. It felt less like a funeral and more like a mandatory company meeting. Everyone was there because they had to be, not because they wanted to be. My mother stood at the entrance, greeting people with a practiced smile that did not reach her eyes. She was dressed impeccably, black suit, pearl earrings, hair freshly done at the salon. She looked like she was hosting a charity fundraiser, not burying her mother-in-law. When I approached, Her smile did not change. Not warmer, not colder. Just the same professional expression she gave everyone else. "You are here. Good. Sit toward the back. Ashley needs the front row for family. No hug. No acknowledgement that we were both grieving the same woman. Just instructions, delivered like I was a guest who needed to be managed." I walked inside without responding. There was nothing to say. The chapel was modest but clean. Wooden pews, soft lighting, generic flower arrangements in shades of white and pale pink. At the front of the room, a photograph of my grandmother sat on an easel beside the closed casket. It was a formal portrait from years ago, the kind they take at department stores. She looked stiff in it, uncomfortable. It was not how I remembered her at all. The casket was closed. My mother's decision. More dignified, she had said when someone asked. I had wanted to see my grandmother one last time, to say goodbye to her face instead of a wooden box. I was not asked. I found a seat in the back row, alone, and watched the room fill up. Distant relatives I saw once a year at holidays, neighbors from my grandmother's street, a few people I did not recognize at all. Everyone moved quietly, speaking in hushed voices, waiting for the service to begin. 10 minutes before 2, the side door opened, and Ashley made her entrance. She was wearing a black designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Her makeup was subtle but perfect, applied in a way that made her look tragic and beautiful at the same time. She walked slowly, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue, every movement calibrated for maximum impact. Every head turned, every eye followed her to the front row. My sister did not walk into rooms, she made entrances. Ashley hugged our mother tightly, a long embrace that lasted exactly long enough for everyone to see how close they were. She whispered something that made Karen nod with visible emotion. Then she turned to greet the other relatives, each interaction perfectly measured. A hug for Uncle Robert that lasted 3 seconds, a gentle hand on Aunt Patricia's shoulder with a sad smile, a brave nod to the neighbors who offered their condolences. She knew exactly how long to hold each embrace, exactly when to let the tears fall, exactly how to make everyone in that room believe she was devastated by this loss. I watched from the back row and thought about the last time Ashley had actually visited our grandmother. 6 months ago. She had stayed for 20 minutes, complained about the drive, and left without finishing her tea. My grandmother had mentioned it to me afterward. "Your sister was in a hurry," she said. "She always is." Now here Ashley was, performing grief like she had rehearsed it for weeks, and everyone was buying it. During one of her tearful embraces, Ashley's eyes drifted to the back of the room. They found mine for half a second. The tears were still there, glistening perfectly, but behind them I saw something else. Something cold, calculating, watching. Then she looked away and continued her performance. That look lasted less than a second. But I felt it. She was keeping track of me, even while she played the grieving granddaughter. And I did not know why. The service began at 2 o'clock exactly. A pastor I had never seen before took the podium, opened a folder of notes, and began speaking about a woman he clearly did not know. He called her a woman of faith, a devoted member of her family, someone who lived a simple life and asked for nothing. He did not mention that she had worked as a bookkeeper for 35 years. He did not mention that she could add columns of numbers in her head faster than most people could use a calculator. He did not mention that she played chess, that she loved mystery novels, that she made the best lemon cookies I had ever tasted. He just read from his notes, filling the air with words that could have been about anyone. When my mother took the podium, I hoped for something more personal, something real. But Karen spoke for exactly 4 minutes, thanking everyone for coming, mentioning Margaret's quiet dedication and modest expectations. She never wanted much, my mother said. She lived simply and asked for nothing. I sat in the back row and thought, that was not modesty, that was strategy. But no one in this room knew the difference. Ashley did not give a speech. She did not need to. She sat in the front row, visible to everyone, crying at all the right moments. She held our mother's hand when Karen returned from the podium. She was the image of a supportive, grieving granddaughter, without ever saying a word. No one asked me to speak. No one looked at me for a reaction. I had visited my grandmother more than anyone in that room. I had listened to her stories, held her hand, brought her groceries when her hip was bad. But in this room, I did not exist. The service ended at 2:43, 43 minutes. They could not even give her a full hour. The reception was held in a fellowship hall adjacent to the chapel. Long tables covered with mediocre catering. Dry sandwiches, store-bought cookies, coffee that tasted like it had been sitting in the pot since morning. My grandmother would have hated it. She made everything from scratch. I stood near the back of the room with a paper plate of food I was not going to eat, watching the crowd mill around and waiting for permission to leave. A few distant relatives approached me with brief condolences and awkward small talk. "Sorry for your loss. She was a good woman. Are you still working at that company?" No one really wanted to know. They were just filling silence. I was about to make my escape when I noticed something across the room. Ashley and my mother, huddled together near the coffee station, speaking in voices too low for anyone else to hear. Their heads were close together, their expressions serious. I moved toward them without thinking, staying behind a large floral arrangement so they would not see me. I stopped when I was close enough to hear. Ashley's voice, low and urgent. "Did you check if she left anything else? Any other documents?" Karen's response, calm and reassuring. "I went through the house yesterday. There is nothing we missed." Ashley again. "What about the lawyer? Did he say anything?" Karen. "He said everything is handled. The will is simple. House goes to me as next of kin. Everything else is negligible." A pause. Then Ashley asked, "And Brittany?" Karen's voice turned dismissive. "What about her? Margaret did not have anything to leave anyone." Another pause. Then Ashley, quieter. "Good. Let's keep it that way." They moved apart, returning to their separate performances, and I stood behind the flowers with my heart beating faster than it should have been. They were not grieving. They were securing. I did not understand yet what they were looking for. I did not know about the insurance policy, the fraud, the years of attempted theft. But I knew that something was wrong. The urgency in Ashley's voice, the careful way Karen reassured her, the relief when they agreed that everything was handled. They were protecting something, or hiding something, and they did not want me anywhere near it. I was still processing what I had heard when an older man approached me. Late 60s, silver hair, wearing a suit that was expensive but not flashy. He moved with purpose, his eyes scanning the room before settling on me. "Miss Lawson? Brittany Lawson?" I nodded, unsure who he was. He stepped closer, positioning himself so his back was to the room, so no one could see our conversation. "I am Harold Brennan," he said quietly. "I was your grandmother's attorney for the past 12 years. My grandmother had an attorney? I did not know she had an attorney. Most people did not, he said. She preferred it that way. He glanced over his shoulder, checking that Ashley and Karen were not watching, then reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. Old, yellowed, the edges worn soft with age. "Your grandmother gave me very specific instructions. I was to wait until the funeral, find you personally, and give you this." He pressed the envelope into my hands. "She was very clear that it should go only to you, no one else." I looked down at the envelope, feeling its weight. Something was inside, folded papers, documents of some kind. "She said you would know what to do with it," Harold continued. His voice was barely above a whisper now. "And she told me to remind you of something. Papers do not lie. People do." Before I could ask any questions, he straightened up and stepped back. "Your grandmother trusted you, Miss Lawson. Do not let her down." Then he turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd like he had never been there at all. I stood alone, holding the envelope, my mind racing. What was this? Why me? Why the secrecy? I started to open it, curiosity overwhelming caution, when a hand shot out and snatched it from my grip. Ashley. She had crossed the room without me noticing, moving with that predatory focus I had seen glimpses of my whole life. Her eyes were locked on the envelope, scanning it, evaluating it. What is this? Her voice was too casual, too controlled. Before I could answer, she pulled out the contents. Old papers, yellowed with age. She flipped through them quickly, her expression shifting from suspicion to something that looked almost like relief. An old insurance policy? She laughed, but it was not a real laugh. Grandma kept so much junk. She probably forgot she even had this. She looked at me with something that was supposed to be pity but felt more like dismissal. These things expire, you know. It is worthless. Harold Brennan gave it to me, I said. He said Grandma wanted me to have it specifically. Ashley's eyes flickered at the mention of Harold's name. Just for a moment. Then she recovered. Harold who? Some random lawyer? Grandma did not have a lawyer. She was barely getting by on Social Security. There is no money here, Brittany. Trust me. She turned and walked to the nearest trash can. Without hesitation, she dropped the envelope and its contents inside. Do not waste your time on expired papers. She kept them for sentimental reasons. Old people do that. They hold on to things that do not matter anymore. She looked at me with that pitying smile again, but underneath it, I saw something else. Relief. Like a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. My mother appeared beside her, drawn by some invisible signal. What was that about? Ashley shrugged. Nothing, just some old papers Brittany found. I threw them out. Karen nodded approvingly, then turned to me with tired impatience. Ashley is right. Do not make a scene over nothing. Your grandmother did not have anything valuable. The sooner you accept that, the better. She put a hand on Ashley's shoulder. Now come help with the cleanup. People are starting to leave. They walked away together, mother and favored daughter, leaving me standing alone by the trash can. I looked down at the crumpled envelope sitting on top of paper plates and used napkins. The insurance policy my grandmother had hidden. The document she had given to a lawyer with specific instructions to give only to me. Ashley had thrown it away like it was garbage. Karen had approved without a second thought. They were so certain it meant nothing. But I could not stop thinking about Harold Brennan's face when he handed me that envelope, the way he positioned himself so no one could see. The urgency in his voice. And I could not stop thinking about Ashley's reaction. Not dismissive, not bored, fast, decisive, almost panicked. People do not react that fast to things that do not matter. Whatever was in that trash can, my sister did not want me to have it. She wanted it gone, destroyed, forgotten. And that made it the most valuable thing in the room. I could not sleep. I lay in my bed staring at the ceiling, watching shadows move across the plaster as cars passed on the street below. The clock on my nightstand glowed 11:14, then 11:32, then 12:07. My body was exhausted, but my mind would not stop spinning. I kept replaying the funeral. Ashley's hand shooting out to grab the envelope. The sound of paper hitting the bottom of the trash can. My mother's dismissive voice telling me not to make a scene over nothing, but it was not nothing. I saw Ashley's face when she looked at that policy. I knew what her dismissal looked like. I had been on the receiving end of it my entire life. This was different. This was elimination. She did not throw that policy away because it was worthless. She threw it away because she needed it to disappear. The speed of it, the decisiveness. No hesitation, no second thought, just a straight line from her hand to the trash. People do not react that fast to things that do not matter. They shrug, they set it aside, they forget about it. Ashley did not forget. Ashley eliminated. And I could not stop thinking about Harold Brennan, the way he found me specifically, the way he positioned himself so no one could see our conversation, the careful, deliberate way he handed me that envelope and told me my grandmother wanted only me to have it. Papers do not lie, he said. People do, my grandmother's words. Coming back to me now through a stranger's voice. I closed my eyes and suddenly I was somewhere else. 2 months earlier, a Saturday afternoon, driving the familiar route to Lakewood. The trees were just starting to change color, hints of gold and red appearing among the green. I had made this drive dozens of times, but that day felt different somehow. Heavier. My grandmother's house was a small Cape Cod with white siding and blue shutters. She had a garden in the front that she maintained herself until last year when her hip started giving her trouble. Now it was slightly overgrown, dandelions pushing up through the flower beds, grass creeping onto the walkway. I always offered to help with the weeding. She always refused. "I am not dead yet," she would say. "I can still pull a dandelion." That day, I let myself in with the spare key she kept under the third porch step. The house smelled like it always did, lemon furniture polish and the faint ghost of pipe tobacco from decades ago. My grandfather had smoked a pipe. The scent never fully left the walls. She was in the kitchen, sitting at the small table by the window, tea already made. 2 cups. She always knew when I was coming. "You are right on time," she said. "Sit down. I made those lemon cookies you like." She looked thinner than the last time I visited, moving slower. But her eyes were the same, sharp, alert, missing nothing. We talked for a while about small things, my job, the weather, a book she was reading. Then she reached across the table and took my hand. Her grip was stronger than I expected. "Your sister has been coming around more lately," she said. I was surprised. Ashley barely visited. Maybe twice a year, and only when she needed something. "She has been helping me with paperwork," my grandmother continued, very eager to help. There was something in her voice. An edge. Almost sarcastic. She thinks I do not notice things anymore, that I am too old to pay attention. She paused, those sharp eyes locked onto mine. "I notice everything, Brittany. I did not know what to say." I waited. I have watched this family for 82 years. I know who is real and who is performing. Your sister performs. She always has. Even as a little girl, she knew how to make people see what she wanted them to see. She squeezed my hand tighter. "But you are different. You look for what is true. That is why I need you to remember something." I leaned closer, hanging on every word. "When I am gone, they will tell you I left nothing, that everything is handled. Do not believe them." "Grandma, what do you mean?" She smiled, that knowing smile that always made me feel like she could see right through me. "Papers do not lie, Brittany. People do. Whatever they give you, whatever they tell you to throw away, look at it first. Really look." I asked her to explain. She just patted my hand. "You will understand when it matters." I opened my eyes. The ceiling of my apartment was still there, the same shadows, the same silence. But my grandmother's voice was echoing in my head like she was sitting right beside me. "Papers do not lie. People do. Whatever they tell you to throw away, look at it first." Ashley had told me to throw it away. Ashley had thrown it away herself, right in front of me, without even reading it properly. The clock read 3:47 in the morning. I had not slept at all. Part of me said I was being paranoid. Ashley was right. Old people keep worthless papers. Insurance policies expire. It was probably nothing. But another part of me remembered Harold Brennan's face, the urgency in his voice, the way he looked over his shoulder to make sure no one was watching. My grandmother had kept that policy for a reason. She had hidden it with a lawyer for 12 years and given specific instructions for it to come to me. Only me. If it was worthless, why all the secrecy? Why the specific instructions? Why did Ashley need it gone so fast? I threw off the covers and got out of bed. I got dressed in the dark, jeans, old sweater, comfortable shoes. I grabbed my car keys from the hook by the door and checked the time. 4:12 in the morning. The funeral home would be empty. The trash would not have been collected yet. If I was going to do this, it had to be now. The drive to Greenwood Chapel took 20 minutes. The streets were nearly empty, just the occasional delivery truck or early morning commuter. Cleveland in the pre-dawn gray, streetlights still on, everything quiet and waiting. My Honda made that familiar rattle on the highway, the one I kept meaning to get checked. I drove with the radio off. I needed to think. I arrived at the funeral home just as the first light was breaking over the horizon. The parking lot was empty except for one car near the back entrance, probably night security or a custodian. I parked at the far end, near the service entrance I remembered from the reception. Sat in the car for a moment, heart pounding, questioning every decision that had led me here. This was either the smartest thing I had ever done or the most ridiculous. Only one way to find out. I got out of the car and walked quickly toward the side of the building. The service entrance was near the kitchen. I remembered seeing staff come in and out during the reception, carrying trays and trash bags. There was a large dumpster against the wall. Green metal, lid closed but not locked. No one around, no one watching. I stood there for a moment, looking at that dumpster, thinking about what I was about to do. Here I was, 33 years old, college degree, steady job, about to climb into a dumpster at 4:30 in the morning like some kind of raccoon in business casual. My grandmother would have been proud, or horrified, possibly both. I hoisted myself up, swung one leg over the edge, and dropped inside. The smell hit me immediately. Stale food, coffee grounds, wilted flowers from the arrangements. Not as bad as I expected, but not pleasant either. The bags from the reception were right on top, black plastic bulging with the remains of a funeral no one really cared about. I tore open the first bag. Napkins, paper plates, half-eaten sandwiches, nothing. Second bag, more of the same. Crushed coffee cups, plastic forks, crumpled programs with my grandmother's face on the cover. Third bag. There. The yellow envelope, crumpled but intact. The insurance policy still inside, pages bent but readable. I pulled it out and held it against my chest like it was something precious. For a moment I just stood there in that dumpster, surrounded by garbage, holding my grandmother's last gift. It smelled like old coffee and regret. But it was mine. I climbed out, brushed myself off, tucked the envelope inside my jacket, and walked back to my car without looking back. By the time I got home, the sun was up. 5:45 in the morning, golden light streaming through my kitchen window. I spread the policy out on the table and finally looked at it properly. Midwest Mutual Life Insurance Company. Policy number 7749 ML 1989. Original issue date 35 years ago. Policyholder Margaret Eleanor Lawson. This policy was older than me. I flipped through the pages carefully. The original policy, several pages of formal language and small print. Multiple amendment pages attached, changes made over the years, beneficiary designation forms, updated periodically. Premium payment records showing continuous payments, month after month, year after year. My grandmother had paid into this policy for 35 years, never missed a payment. I turned to the most recent beneficiary designation, dated 14 months ago. Sole beneficiary, Brittany Ann Lawson. I stared at my own name, read it again, read it a third time, sole beneficiary. Not Ashley, not Karen, not split between us, just me. But something was wrong. Some of the pages looked different. Newer paper mixed with old. One beneficiary form had a signature that did not look right. My grandmother's handwriting was distinctive. Small, precise, slightly slanted to the left. I had seen it my whole life on birthday cards, grocery lists, notes left on the kitchen counter. This signature was similar but not quite right. Too large, wrong angle. The letters did not flow the way hers did. I kept flipping through the pages, found another form dated 2 years ago. This one listed the beneficiary as Ashley Marie Lawson, but it was marked in red ink, rejected. Signature verification failed. Original policyholder verification required. Someone had tried to change the beneficiary to Ashley, and the insurance company had rejected it. I sat back in my chair, mind racing. This policy was not worthless. It was contested. Someone had been trying to steal it, and my grandmother had stopped them. I looked at the policy value line, but the old format made it hard to read. I needed to take this to the insurance company. I needed to know exactly what I was looking at. My phone buzzed on the table. I had forgotten it existed. Text from Ashley. 6:17 in the morning. Mom said you were asking about Grandma's papers at the funeral. I told you there is nothing there. Just let it go. Some things are better left alone. 6 in the morning. Ashley never woke up before 9. She was already awake, already thinking about this, already worried. Another text came through 1 minute later. I am just looking out for you, Britt. Do not waste your time on Grandma's old junk. Trust me, okay? There is nothing worth finding. The use of Britt. Ashley's fake affectionate nickname for me. She only used it when she wanted something. I did not respond. My sister was nervous enough to text me at 6 in the morning. Nervous enough to use the nickname she thought would soften me up. Nervous enough to tell me twice that there was nothing worth finding. Which meant there was definitely something worth finding. I gathered the policy pages carefully and placed them back in the envelope. Opened my laptop and searched for Midwest Mutual Life Insurance. Company still exists. Regional carrier, headquarters in Columbus, branch office in Cleveland. Hours, Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5. Today was Friday. If I left now, I could be there when they opened. I showered quickly, changed into professional clothes, put the envelope in my good leather bag, checked my reflection in the mirror. I looked tired. I looked determined. I looked like a woman about to fight for something. I just did not know yet how big the fight would be. I got in my car, started the engine. One more text from Ashley. Brittany, hello? Why are you not answering? I turned my phone to silent and pulled out of the parking lot. For the first time in my life, my sister wanted my attention. She was about to get more of it than she ever wanted. The drive to Cleveland took 45 minutes in light traffic. I kept my hand steady on the wheel and my eyes on the road, but my mind was somewhere else entirely. The envelope sat on the passenger seat beside me, and I kept glancing at it like it might disappear if I looked away too long. I had barely slept. Maybe 2 hours total, broken up by dreams I could not remember, and a restless anxiety that would not let me stay still. Now I was running on coffee and adrenaline, driving toward answers I was not sure I wanted to find. The Midwest Mutual Life Insurance branch office was in a commercial district on the east side of the city. Modern building, glass and steel, corporate landscaping with trimmed hedges and decorative stones. The kind of place that wanted you to feel like your money was safe. I parked in the visitor lot at 8:23, 7 minutes before they opened. Sat in my car and watched employees trickle in through the front entrance, coffee cups in hand, badges clipped to their belts. I told myself not to expect anything. Even if the policy was valid, it was probably worth a few $1,000s. Maybe enough to cover funeral costs. Maybe enough for a modest savings. I was not doing this for money. I was doing this for truth. My grandmother wanted me to find something. She had hidden this policy, protected it, left specific instructions for it to come to me. I owed her at least the effort of looking. At 8:31, I got out of the car, grabbed my bag with the envelope inside, and walked toward the entrance. Whatever happened next, there was no going back. The lobby was corporate clean in that way insurance companies always are. Marble floors polished to a shine, potted plants that might have been real or might have been very convincing fakes, soft music playing from hidden speakers, something instrumental and forgettable. The reception desk was staffed by a young woman with a professional smile and a nameplate that read, Jennifer. A few other customers sat in chairs along the wall, filling out forms or waiting for appointments. Everything looked normal. Everything felt routine. Good morning, Jennifer said as I approached. How can I help you today? I pulled the envelope from my bag. I would like to inquire about a life insurance policy. My grandmother passed away recently, and I am listed as the beneficiary. I would like to verify the policy status. Jennifer's smile stayed in place, professional sympathy layered on top. I am so sorry for your loss. Is this regarding a new claim or an existing policy? Existing. From a long time ago. She took the envelope and examined the contents, noting the age of the paper with a raised eyebrow. This is quite an old policy. Let me pull it up in our system. She turned to her computer and typed in the policy number. I watched her face, looking for any reaction, any sign that something was unusual. At first, nothing, just routine keystrokes. The click of her mouse, the hum of the computer processing. Then her fingers stopped moving. Her smile faded, just slightly. She leaned closer to her screen, scrolled down, scrolled back up. Her eyebrows drew together. "That is strange," she murmured, more to herself than to me. "Is something wrong?" She looked up, her expression carefully neutral now. The warmth was gone. "Could you excuse me for just one moment? I need to speak with someone." She did not wait for me to answer. She stood up quickly and walked toward a back hallway, disappearing through a door marked "Employees Only." I stood at the reception desk alone, my heart beating faster than it should have been. The other customers kept filling out their forms. No one noticed anything unusual. But I noticed. Something had changed. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Jennifer did not return. Another receptionist came out and helped the other customers, but she avoided eye contact with me. I stood there trying to look calm, feeling anything but. Finally, a door opened down the hallway. A woman emerged and walked toward me with purpose. Mid-40s, tailored blazer, reading glasses pushed up on her head. She moved with authority, heels clicking on the marble floor. Her name badge read, "Claire Donovan, Senior Claims Specialist." "Miss Lawson?" She extended her hand. "I am Claire Donovan. I handle complex claims for our branch." Her handshake was firm, professional, but her eyes were studying me carefully, assessing something I could not identify. "Would you mind coming with me? I would like to discuss your grandmother's policy in private. Is there a problem with the policy?" She paused for just a fraction too long. "There are some details we need to review. It would be better to discuss them somewhere more comfortable." I followed her down the hallway, past cubicles where people pretended not to stare. She led me to a small conference room with glass walls, blinds already drawn for privacy. A table with 4 chairs, a pitcher of water, notepads arranged precisely. "Please, have a seat." "Can I get you anything? Water? Coffee?" I sat down across from her. "I would like to know what is going on." Claire settled into her chair and folded her hands on the table. Her expression was serious but not hostile. "Miss Lawson, I need to verify some information first. This is standard procedure for claims of this nature." "What nature?" She did not answer directly. Instead, she opened a folder she had brought with her. "May I see your driver's license?" I handed it over. She compared it to something in her folder, checking details I could not see. "Your full legal name is Brittany Ann Lawson?" "Yes." "Date of birth? March 15th, 1992. Social Security number?" I hesitated for a moment, then provided it. She checked it against her records. "And Margaret Eleanor Lawson was your grandmother, your father's mother?" "Yes." "My father was David Lawson. He passed away 8 years ago." Claire made a note. "I am sorry. That matches our records." "Your records? You have records about my father?" "We have records about everything, Miss Lawson. That is what insurance companies do." She examined the original policy I had brought, holding certain pages up to the light, comparing signatures to something in her folder. She took photos of several pages with her phone. "This appears to be the original policy document. It matches what we have on file." "Then, everything is in order? The policy is valid?" Claire set down the papers, removed her reading glasses, looked at me with an expression that was hard to read, not hostile, but serious. Concerned, maybe. "Miss Lawson, this policy is very much valid. But before I tell you more, I need to make a phone call." She excused herself and stepped into the hallway. Through the glass, I could see her talking on her cell phone, expression serious, gesturing with one hand. The call lasted several minutes. I sat alone in that conference room, surrounded by corporate neutrality, and tried to slow my breathing. Whatever was in that policy, it was bigger than expired paperwork. Claire returned and closed the door firmly behind her. "Miss Lawson, I have just spoken with our legal department. They are sending someone over. But I want to explain a few things first. Legal department? Why do you need lawyers? Because this policy is complicated. She opened a different folder and turned it so I could see the contents. A printed statement with numbers and dates and columns I did not understand. Your grandmother purchased this whole life insurance policy 35 years ago. She paid premiums consistently every month until her death. Claire pointed to a line near the bottom of the page. Whole life policies accumulate cash value over time. The longer they are held, the more they are worth. Your grandmother held this policy for 35 years. She never borrowed against it, never withdrew from it, just kept paying month after month for 3.5 decades. My eyes found the number on the page, a number with a lot of digits. My brain did not process it at first. It could not be right. Claire said it out loud. The current claim value of this policy is approximately $1.8 million. Silence. I am sorry. Did you say $1.8 million, plus potential dividends and interest pending final calculation? That is not possible. My grandmother lived in a small house. She clipped coupons. She drove the same car for 15 years. Claire almost smiled. Miss Lawson, your grandmother was a bookkeeper for 35 years. She understood compound interest better than most financial advisors. She knew exactly what she was doing. I stared at the number, could not breathe, could not think. My grandmother, who everyone thought had nothing, had quietly built a fortune, and she left it all to me. Before I could process this, Claire's expression shifted. Sympathy mixed with something else. Concern. Miss Lawson, there is something else you need to know. I looked up, still reeling from the first revelation. This policy should be straightforward. Policyholder deceased, beneficiary verified, claim approved. But it is not straightforward, because someone has been trying to interfere with it. She pulled out another folder, thicker than the others. Over the past 3 years, our company has received multiple requests to modify the beneficiary designation on this policy. 7 requests in total. All of them were rejected. Why were they rejected? Your grandmother placed a legal lock on this policy 14 months ago. After that, no changes could be made without her physical presence and notarized consent. Claire's voice dropped slightly. Someone kept trying anyway, submitting forms with signatures that did not match our records. We flagged it as potential fraud, but since no claim had been filed, we were waiting for this moment. She turned the folder toward me. These are the rejected modification requests. I think you should see the name on them. I looked at the top form. My eyes found the signature line at the bottom. The name written there. In handwriting I would recognize anywhere. Ashley Marie Lawson. My sister's signature. My sister's handwriting. I flipped through the forms. 7 attempts over 3 years. Each one trying to change the beneficiary from me to Ashley. Each one rejected for signature verification failure. One form had a second signature as a witness. Karen Lawson. My mother had witnessed at least one of these attempts. She had stood next to Ashley and signed her name to a form designed to steal my inheritance. Miss Lawson, I have to ask. Claire's voice was gentle but direct. Do you know Ashley Lawson? I looked up from the forms, my voice flat. She is my sister. Claire nodded slowly, as if this confirmed something she had already suspected. Then you should know that what she attempted constitutes insurance fraud. It is a felony. Multiple felonies, actually. The forged signatures, the falsified attempts. Our legal department will be filing a report with the authorities. There was a knock at the door. Claire stood. That will be our branch director and legal counsel. The door opened. 2 people entered. A man in a gray suit, tall, grave expression. His name badge identified him as Thomas Richardson, branch director. Beside him, a woman in a sharp navy suit. Company attorney, Miss Lawson. Richardson shook my hand. I oversee this branch. I understand Claire has explained the situation regarding your grandmother's policy. He sat down across from me, his expression serious. I want to assure you that Midwest Mutual takes fraud very seriously. We will be cooperating fully with law enforcement on this matter. He paused, seeming to gather himself. Your grandmother was a remarkable woman. She anticipated this. I looked up, confused. What do you mean? 14 months ago, she came to this office personally. She sat in this very room. She told us that when she died, someone would try to steal her policy. Richardson leaned forward. She gave us specific instructions. She named you specifically as the only person authorized to receive information or file a claim. No one else. Under any circumstances. His eyes met mine. She said you were the only one she trusted. I sat in that conference room, surrounded by lawyers and insurance executives, and felt something shift inside me. My grandmother had come here. She had prepared for this. She had named me specifically because she knew what Ashley would try to do. She spent the last year of her life building a fortress around this policy, and she made sure I would be the one to defend it. I looked down at the forms with Ashley's signature. 7 attempts, 3 years, systematic fraud. My sister threw this policy in the trash because she thought she had already won. She thought her forgery attempts had succeeded. She thought our grandmother's money was already hers. She had no idea the real fight was just beginning. I was still sitting in that conference room when the full weight of it hit me. Richardson and the attorney had stepped out to make more phone calls, leaving me alone with Claire Donovan and a table covered in documents that proved my sister was a criminal. My hands were shaking. I did not notice until I reached for the glass of water in front of me and watched the surface tremble. I had been so focused on the information that I forgot to feel it. Now it was hitting me all at once. $1.8 million. 7 forged beneficiary changes. My mother's signature on 3 of them. My family had been trying to rob my grandmother while she was still alive. Claire sat quietly across the table, giving me space. She did not push, did not rush me, just waited with the patience of someone who had seen this kind of devastation before. I know this is a lot to take in, she said finally. Most people who come in here are dealing with grief. You are dealing with grief and betrayal at the same time. I looked up at her. How long have you known? About the fraud attempts? We flagged the first suspicious form about 3 years ago, but without a filed claim, there was little we could do except reject the requests and document everything. She paused. Your grandmother knew we were documenting. She asked us to. She called after every rejected form and confirmed that we were keeping records. She was building a case, Miss Lawson, and she wanted you to be the one to use it. My grandmother spent 3 years watching her own family try to steal from her, and she never said a word to me. She just prepared. I did not know whether to be grateful or heartbroken. Let me walk you through what we know, Claire said. She pulled out a timeline document and spread it across the table. 3 years ago, we received the first request to change the beneficiary from you to Ashley Lawson. The form included what appeared to be Margaret's signature, but our verification system flagged inconsistencies. What kind of inconsistencies? The slant was wrong. The pressure was different. Small things that most people would not notice, but our software is designed to catch them. She pointed to a section of the timeline. We sent a letter to Margaret directly, asking her to confirm the change in person or via notarized document. She called us the next day. She was very clear. She had not authorized any change. Claire traced her finger along the timeline. She asked us to reject the request and flag her account for additional scrutiny. She told us she suspected someone in her family was trying to steal from her, and she wanted every attempt documented. I looked at the dates on the timeline. 7 attempts spread across 3 years. First year, Claire continued, 2 attempts, both rejected. Second year, 3 attempts, increasingly sophisticated forgeries. Third year, 2 more attempts, including one with a forged notary stamp. A forged notary stamp? Claire nodded, her expression darkening. The notary's name was Gerald Vance. When we contacted him, he said he had notarized documents for a young woman matching Ashley's description. But he never actually witnessed Margaret signing anything. He was told the elderly woman could not travel. She paused to let that sink in. He notarized based on copies and verbal assurances, which is illegal. He has since had his license revoked. Your sister did not just forge signatures, Miss Lawson. She corrupted other people into her scheme. I felt sick. My sister had not just tried to steal. She had built a system. She had lied to professionals, broken laws, dragged innocent people into her crimes. And my mother had helped. Your mother's signature appears as a witness on 3 of the 7 forms, Claire said, as if reading my mind. We cannot determine if she knew the signatures were forged, but her participation raises questions. I stared at the documents. My mother stood next to my sister and watched her forge my grandmother's name. Either she knew and helped, or she did not look closely enough to notice. I was not sure which was worse. The door opened and the company attorney returned. Patricia Wells, she introduced herself, sitting down beside Claire. Miss Lawson, I need to explain what happens next from a legal perspective. She opened her own folder, All Business. What your sister attempted constitutes insurance fraud under Ohio law. It is a felony. The forged signatures and falsified notarization add multiple forgery charges. If your grandmother had died before she locked the policy, and Ashley had successfully claimed the money, we would be looking at theft of nearly $2 million. She let that number hang in the air. As it stands, she is looking at attempted fraud, multiple counts of forgery, and potentially elder financial abuse. Elder financial abuse. The words made my stomach turn. My sister had tried to steal from an 82-year-old woman, her own grandmother. Midwest Mutual has a legal obligation to report suspected insurance fraud to the Ohio Department of Insurance, Patricia continued. From there, it typically moves to the county prosecutor's office. We will be cooperating fully with any investigation. She looked at me directly. You are not required to do anything. The company will file its report regardless. But if you choose to provide a statement or cooperate with investigators, it would strengthen the case. This is your decision. Take time to think about it. I nodded slowly, overwhelmed. She was asking me to help send my sister to prison. A week ago, that thought would have seemed impossible. Now, sitting in this room, looking at those forged signatures, it felt like the only option. I left the insurance office just after noon. 2 hours had passed since I walked in. It felt like 2 years. The sun was bright, too bright, and I squinted against it as I pushed through the doors and walked toward my car. I felt like I was emerging from underground, from some dark place where terrible secrets lived. I sat in the driver's seat but did not start the engine. Just sat there, breathing. I had come here hoping the policy was not expired. I left knowing I was a millionaire and my sister was a criminal. Neither of those things felt real yet. I looked at my phone. 17 missed calls from Ashley, 9 from Karen. I did not listen to any of the voicemails, not yet. I was not ready. But there was one call I needed to make. Harold Brennan's face flashed in my mind. The way he found me at the funeral. The way he said my grandmother had trusted me with this. He knew something. He had to know something. My grandmother had a lawyer for 12 years. He did not just deliver an envelope. I found his business card in my bag. Simple white card, black text. Harold Brennan, attorney at law, estate planning and elder law. Small office address in Lakewood. I dialed before I could overthink it. He answered on the second ring. Miss Lawson, I was wondering when you would call. You knew, didn't you? About the insurance policy. About what Ashley was doing. There was a pause on the line. Then his voice, careful but warm. I know many things, Miss Lawson. Your grandmother made sure of that. Can you explain? Can you tell me what is going on? Another pause. Can you come to my office? There is more you need to see. I was not supposed to reveal everything until certain conditions were met. But I think those conditions have been met now. How soon can you be here? 15 minutes. I will have tea ready. Harold Brennan's office was in a converted Victorian house in Lakewood, just 15 minutes from the insurance company. I parked on the street and walked up creaky wooden steps to a door with a brass nameplate. Harold Brennan, attorney at law. By appointment only. I rang the bell. Harold opened the door himself. No receptionist, no staff visible, just an old man in a cardigan, glasses perched on his nose, looking at me with eyes that held more knowledge than I could imagine. Come in, come in. I made tea. Your grandmother always preferred tea. The office inside was organized chaos. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves stuffed with law books and files, stacks of papers on every surface, an old wooden desk buried under documents. It smelled like leather and old paper and something that might have been pipe tobacco from decades past. He gestured to a worn leather chair across from his desk. I sat down and accepted the tea he offered. Chamomile, my grandmother's favorite. You knew my grandmother well. 12 years. He settled into his own chair, cradling his cup. She came to me when she first suspected something was wrong. Most of my clients want to protect their assets from nursing homes or taxes. Margaret wanted to protect hers from her own family. I took a sip of tea, letting the warmth steady me. I have been practicing elder law for 35 years, Miss Lawson. I have seen families tear themselves apart over money, seen children steal from dying parents, seen spouses empty accounts while their partners lay in hospital beds. He shook his head slowly. Your grandmother was different. She did not want revenge. She wanted justice, and she wanted to protect you. Why me? Why not just cut Ashley out and forget about it? Harold set down his teacup. Because your grandmother believed that truth matters more than peace. She could have changed her will quietly, left everything to charity, avoided the whole mess. He looked at me with something like admiration. But she said something to me once that I have never forgotten. She said, Ashley needs to face what she has done, not for punishment, for her soul. He smiled sadly. Your grandmother was a bookkeeper, Miss Lawson, but she thought like a philosopher. He opened a drawer in his desk and pulled out a thick folder, set it on the desk between us. The label on the front read, Margaret Lawson, Comprehensive Estate Plan. The insurance policy was just the beginning, Miss Lawson. He opened the folder. Your grandmother came to me 5 years ago when she first discovered Ashley's activities. Over the next 5 years, we built a complete protection plan. He began listing items, pointing to documents as he spoke. The insurance policy, which you now know about, but also a living trust, a protected savings account, instructions for her house, and a safety deposit box. Everything your grandmother owned, except for a few personal items, was placed in a revocable living trust. You are the sole trustee and sole beneficiary. Ashley and Karen are specifically excluded, with documentation explaining why. He pulled out another document. The house, the savings account, any remaining assets, all yours. I stared at the papers, trying to process. There is more, he continued. Separate from the insurance policy, Margaret maintained a savings account at First National Bank. Current balance, approximately $240,000. $240,000, on top of the $1.8 million. Ashley tried to access this account as well. She was rejected because she was not an authorized signer. Your grandmother added you as a joint account holder 3 years ago. You may not have noticed. She said she did not want to worry you. I did not notice. I never looked at any joint accounts. I did not know I had any. Harold reached into the folder again and pulled out a small envelope. Inside was a brass key, old but well-maintained. This is the key to your grandmother's safety deposit box at First National Bank. She told me to give it to you only after you understood the full scope of what Ashley had done. He placed the key in my palm. It was small, warm from being in the envelope, in the drawer, waiting for this moment. She said, whatever is inside will answer your last question. What question? Harold looked at me steadily. The question of whether this was really about money, or whether it was about something much older, something that started before you were born. I stood up, the key clutched in my hand, my mind spinning. Miss Lawson, before you go to the bank, I want you to understand something. I paused at the door. Your grandmother loved her family. All of her family, even the ones who betrayed her. What she did, the planning, the documentation, the locks and safeguards. It was not revenge. He rose from his chair and walked toward me. It was the only way she knew to tell the truth when no one would listen. I drove toward First National Bank with the key in my pocket and a folder full of documents on the seat beside me. My grandmother was 82 years old. She lived alone in a small house. Everyone thought she was just a sweet old lady who clipped coupons and watched game shows. But she had spent the last 5 years of her life preparing for a war she knew she would not live to fight. My phone buzzed, a voicemail notification from Ashley. I pressed play. "Brittany, I know you went to the insurance company. I do not know what they told you, but they are lying. They have always had issues with our family. Call me back. We can fix this together." I deleted the message without responding. My sister still thought this was something she could talk her way out of. She had no idea what grandmother had left in that box. Neither did I. But I was about to find out. First National Bank was the kind of place where people whispered and wore suits. The main branch sat in downtown Cleveland, all marble floors and brass fixtures and high ceilings that made you feel small. Old money architecture. The kind of building designed to make you trust that whatever you put inside would be safe forever. I parked in the garage and walked through the lobby with the key in my pocket, feeling its weight with every step. Small brass key, warm against my thigh. Harold's words echoing in my head. Something much older. Something that started before you were born. I did not know what I was about to find. Part of me was not sure I wanted to know. The customer service area was staffed by a woman in her 50s with reading glasses on a chain around her neck. Her nameplate said, "Dorothy. I need to access a safety deposit box. I have the key and documentation." She examined my driver's license, the key, the papers Harold had provided. Then she typed something into her computer and paused, looking at the screen with recognition. Margaret Lawson's box. She was a lovely woman. We were sorry to hear she passed. You knew her? She came in every few months, always so organized, always so deliberate, like she was checking on something important. Dorothy led me through a heavy door and down a corridor lined with brass-fronted boxes stacked floor to ceiling. The air was cool, climate-controlled, smelling faintly of metal and old paper. "Number 247. I will give you privacy." She unlocked the outer door with the bank's key, and I inserted mine. The box slid out, heavier than I expected. Dorothy left me alone in a small private viewing room with harsh overhead light and a single table. I set the metal box down and sat there for a moment, hands resting on the cool surface. My grandmother had kept this box for decades. Whatever was inside, she wanted me to find it. She had planned for this moment, prepared for it, left instructions that would lead me here only after I understood what Ashley had done. I took a breath and opened the lid. It was not what I expected. No stacks of cash, no jewelry, no gold coins. Instead, I found documents, photographs, letters, a small leather journal with a worn cover. Everything was organized in labeled folders, color-coded, tabbed, dated. Even in death, my grandmother was a bookkeeper. I did a quick inventory. Folder 1, birth certificates and legal documents. Folder 2, financial records, historical. Folder 3, correspondence, private. Folder 4, for Brittany, read first. There was also a large manila envelope labeled, "The Truth About This Family." And at the bottom, a stack of old photographs held together with a rubber band. I picked up the photographs first. Black and white, some color but faded with age. People I did not recognize, standing in front of houses and cars from another era. But one photo caught my eye and made me stop breathing. A young woman, maybe in her 20s, with dark hair and a sharp smile. She was looking at the camera with an expression I knew intimately. Confident, calculating. Like she was already 3 steps ahead of whoever was looking at her. She looked exactly like Ashley. Same smile, same posture, same eyes. I turned the photo over. Written on the back in faded ink, Lorraine, 1962. I did not know anyone named Lorraine, but whoever she was, my sister could have been her twin. I set the photographs aside and reached for the folder marked For Brittany, read first. Inside was a handwritten letter, several pages, my grandmother's careful script filling each line. The date at the top was 8 months before her death. My dearest Brittany, it began. If you are reading this, then the truth has finally found its moment. I have spent the last 5 years preparing for this day. I have watched, documented, and waited. I know you must have questions. Why did I choose you? Why did I not just confront Ashley? Why did I let this happen? The answers are not simple. But you deserve to know everything. What I am about to tell you goes back 40 years, long before you were born. I kept reading, my grandmother's voice in my head as clear as if she were sitting beside me. Your family has a history of secrets, Brittany. Secrets that shaped who we all became. I am going to tell you about Lorraine, your mother's sister, the one no one ever mentions. And I am going to tell you why Ashley is the way she is. It is not an excuse. But it is an explanation. Sometimes understanding the past is the only way to survive the present. I could have simply changed my will and died in peace. But that would not have been fair to you. You would have received the money without understanding why. And Ashley would have spent her life believing she was wronged. The truth is not just about justice. It is about freedom. Freedom from lies that poison families for generations. I want you to be free, Brittany. Free from the patterns that trapped the rest of us. The letter continued, her handwriting steady and sure. I chose you because you are the only one in this family who values truth over comfort. Your mother chose comfort. Your sister chose greed. Your father, God rest his soul, chose silence. But you always asked the questions no one wanted to answer. That is not a flaw, sweetheart. That is a gift. Use it. At the bottom of the first page, she had written instructions. Read the documents in order. Start with the truth about this family. It will hurt. But you need to know. And when you are finished, you will understand why I did what I did. You will understand everything. I set the letter aside and reached for the large manila envelope. My hands were trembling slightly as I opened it. Inside were typed pages, newspaper clippings, legal documents, more photographs. A timeline of events spanning 40 years. The first document was a newspaper clipping from 1983. The headline read, "Local Woman Convicted of Elder Fraud." Below it was a photograph of Lorraine, the same woman from the earlier picture, now older, being led from a courthouse in handcuffs. The article explained that Lorraine Mitchell had been convicted of systematically stealing from elderly clients at a financial services company where she worked. She had forged documents, manipulated account information, drained savings accounts. The judge called her crimes calculated and predatory. She was sentenced to 4 years in prison. I stared at the clipping, my mind struggling to process. Your mother had a sister, my grandmother had written in the margins. An older sister. She has never mentioned her to you. I kept reading through the documents. After Lorraine's conviction, the Mitchell family had disowned her completely. Karen never spoke of her again, pretended she did not exist. Lorraine was erased from family history like she had never been born. She died in 2001, alone, estranged from everyone who had ever known her. Your mother buried her own sister twice, my grandmother had written, once in silence, once in the ground. But there was more. A letter from 1989. Lorraine writing to Karen from somewhere, begging for forgiveness, asking to meet her niece. The baby, she called her. The baby was Ashley. Attached was a note in my grandmother's handwriting. Karen visited Lorraine in prison. She never told anyone. I found the visitor logs years later. I sat back in my chair trying to absorb what I was reading. My mother had a sister who went to prison for elder fraud, the exact same crime Ashley had tried to commit. And Karen had hidden this from everyone, including me, for my entire life. Your mother watched her own sister go to prison for fraud, my grandmother had written. Then she watched her daughter attempt the same crime. Either she did not see the pattern, or she could not face it. I believe Karen has spent her entire life running from Lorraine's shadow. And Ashley walked right into it. I reached for the small leather journal next. My grandmother's handwriting again. Dated entries spanning 5 years. The first entry was from 4 years ago. I started this journal when I first suspected Ashley was stealing from me. I wanted a record. Proof that I was not losing my mind. I flipped through the pages, reading selected entries. 4 years ago. Ashley visited today. She offered to help with my bills. She has never offered before. Something has changed. 3.5 years ago. Found a document on my desk that I did not sign. Ashley was here yesterday. The signature looks like mine but is not. 3 years ago. Ashley told Karen I am getting confused. I am not confused. I know exactly what she is doing. 2 years ago. The insurance company rejected another change request. I called to confirm they are keeping records. They are. 18 months ago, hired Harold Brennan. It is time to protect myself legally. 1 year ago. Ashley is getting more desperate. Her attempts are more frequent, more sophisticated. She has started involving a notary. I have documented everything 6 months before her death. I have done everything I can. The rest is up to Brittany. I hope she forgives me for this burden. I had no one else to trust. The truth is patient. It will wait for her. I closed the journal and sat in silence. My grandmother had spent 5 years watching her own granddaughter try to steal from her. She had documented every attempt, every lie, every betrayal, not out of paranoia, out of love. She was building a case, building evidence, building a fortress of truth that Ashley could never penetrate. And she had done it all alone. I turned to the folder of trust documents next, the complete legal framework Harold had mentioned. But there was more here than just the trust. A detailed accounting of every asset, every protection, every contingency, insurance policy, locked, Brittany as sole beneficiary. Living trust, established 4 years ago, updated annually. Savings account, joint ownership with Brittany added 3 years ago. House, transferred to trust, protected from probate. My grandmother had built a fortress, brick by brick, year by year. And at the bottom of the trust documents, a specific clause that made my breath catch. I intentionally exclude my daughter-in-law Karen Lawson and my granddaughter Ashley Lawson from any inheritance. Attached was a 3-page explanation, documentation of attempted fraud, forged signatures, witness statements from the insurance company. She did not just cut them out, she documented why. If they ever tried to contest the trust, they would be contesting their own crimes. My grandmother thought like a general preparing for war. Every document was a weapon. Every signature was armor. She knew Ashley would fight. She made sure Ashley would lose. This was not paranoia. This was love. She spent her final years protecting me from my own family, and she did it all alone. I had almost finished going through everything when I noticed one last item at the very bottom of the box. A single photograph, face down. I turned it over. My grandmother, young, maybe 30 years old, standing next to a man I recognized from other family photos as my grandfather Franklin, who died before I was born. And between them, a little girl, maybe 5 years old, holding a doll and smiling at the camera. I did not recognize the child. I turned the photograph over. On the back, in faded pencil, were words that made my heart stop. Margaret, Franklin, and the girl we couldn't keep. 1967. The girl we could not keep. My grandfather died before I was born. I never knew him except through photographs and stories. But who was the little girl? My grandmother never mentioned having another child. My father never mentioned having a sister. Margaret's letter said I would understand everything. But this photograph raised more questions than answers. My phone buzzed, startling me back to the present. I had forgotten it existed. A text from a number I did not recognize. Miss Lawson, this is Detective Martinez from the Cleveland Police Department, Financial Crimes Unit. We need to speak with you regarding a fraud investigation involving Ashley Lawson. Please contact me at your earliest convenience. I stared at the message, then at the photograph, then at the box full of my grandmother's secrets. The police were already involved. The investigation was already moving. But I still had questions. Questions only the dead could answer. Who was the girl in the photograph? What happened in 1967? And why did my grandmother spend her last years preparing for a war against her own family? I gathered everything carefully, placed it back in the box, and walked out of the bank into the afternoon sun. Whatever was coming next, I was not facing it alone. I had my grandmother's army of documents, and I was ready to fight. I sat in my car outside First National Bank for a long time, engine off, hands on the steering wheel, staring at nothing. The metal box from the safety deposit sat on the passenger seat, filled with 40 years of family secrets. I had come looking for answers. I found a graveyard. Lorraine, Karen's criminal sister, erased from family history. Ashley, following the same pattern, committing the same crime, blind to the shadow she was walking in. My grandmother's journal, 5 years of watching and documenting and preparing. And that photograph. The little girl no one ever mentioned. The girl we could not keep. Who was she? What happened to her? My grandmother's letter promised I would understand everything, but this photograph only added more questions. I looked at my phone again. Detective Martinez, Financial Crimes Unit. We need to speak with you regarding a fraud investigation involving Ashley Lawson. The police were already involved. This was not just family drama anymore. This was a criminal investigation. My sister might actually go to prison. I typed a response. I can meet tomorrow morning. Where? The reply came quickly. Cleveland Police Department, Financial Crimes Division, 9 a.m. Ask for Detective Martinez. Tomorrow I would tell the police about my sister. Tonight I needed to understand that photograph. I drove home as the sun began to set, the metal box heavy beside me. By the time I reached my apartment, the sky was turning purple and gold, beautiful in a way that felt wrong given everything I had learned. I spread the contents of the box across my kitchen table. The photograph of the little girl propped against a coffee mug. Young Margaret, young Franklin, the unknown child between them. The girl we could not keep. 1967. I called Harold Brennan. He answered on the first ring, as if he had been waiting. Miss Lawson, I take it you opened the box? I did. And I have questions. I imagine you do. There is a photograph at the bottom. My grandmother, my grandfather, and a little girl. The back says the girl we could not keep. Harold, who is she? There was a long pause on the line. When he spoke again, his voice was heavier than before. I was hoping you would not find that one. But you knew it was there. I knew. Margaret told me everything. But she wanted you to find it on your own. Who is she, Harold? Another pause. Then he said a name I had never heard before. The girl in that photograph. Her name was Catherine. She was your grandmother's daughter, born in 1962, 5 years before that photo was taken. My mind went blank for a moment. Then it started racing. My father had a sister? He never mentioned. No one did. That was the agreement. What agreement? What happened to her? Harold sighed, and I could hear the weight of decades in that sound. That is not a story for the phone, Miss Lawson. Come to my office tomorrow afternoon, after you have spoken with the police. I will tell you everything. It is time you knew the whole truth. He paused. But I warn you, this secret is the reason your family broke apart long before Ashley ever stole a dime. I could not sleep that night, not even close. I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop, the photograph of Catherine beside me, and I started searching. Catherine, born 1962, my father's sister. If she existed, there had to be records. I searched birth records, Ohio vital statistics, public databases. It took almost an hour, but I found her. Catherine Marie Lawson, born March 1962, Cleveland, Ohio. Parents, Franklin Lawson and Margaret Lawson. She was real, she existed. But there was no death record matching that name. Not in Ohio, not anywhere I could find. I switched to adoption records, sealed files, historical databases, anything I could access without being a lawyer. I found a reference just after 2 a.m. Sealed adoption, 1967 Cuyahoga County. The same year as the photograph. The girl we could not keep. My grandparents had given away their daughter. They had given her up for adoption. I kept searching, looking for any Catherine Lawson born in 1962 who might be living now. Too many results. No way to narrow it down without more information. She could be anywhere. She could be anyone. She might not even know she was adopted. I looked at the photograph again, then at the documents about Lorraine, then at Ashley's fraud attempts. My grandmother watched her own daughter get taken away, then watched Lorraine destroy herself with crime, then watched Ashley follow the same path. 3 generations of loss. And she documented all of it. By 3 a.m, my eyes were burning and my head was pounding. I needed sleep. Tomorrow I had to meet with the police, then with Harold. But even as I closed my laptop, I could not stop thinking about Catherine. Somewhere out there, I had an aunt I had never met, and no one had ever told me she existed. The Cleveland Police Department building was gray and institutional, the kind of place designed to intimidate. I arrived at 8:55, found parking, and walked through metal detectors into a lobby that smelled like floor wax and old coffee. Detective Martinez met me in the waiting area. Mid-40s, sharp eyes, dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She moved with the efficiency of someone who had seen too much and learned to process it quickly. "Thank you for coming in, Miss Lawson. I know this must be difficult. I want to help. My grandmother deserves justice." Martinez nodded and led me to a small interview room. Fluorescent lights, metal table, chairs that were uncomfortable by design. "Let me tell you what we have found," she said, opening a folder between us. "Midwest Mutual Insurance forwarded their fraud report to us 3 days ago. We have been building a case since then." She paused, studying my face. "But here is what you might not know. Your sister's activities were not limited to your grandmother." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "What do you mean?" Martinez pulled out several photographs and spread them on the table. Elderly faces I did not recognize. Ashley Lawson worked for Lakewood Senior Care Coordination for 4 years. In that time, we have identified at least 3 other elderly clients whose finances were compromised. She pointed to the first photograph. A woman with kind eyes and white hair. Dorothy Hendricks, 78 years old. She was one of Ashley's clients. Her daughter noticed discrepancies in her mother's accounts, small amounts missing each month. Martinez's expression darkened. When the daughter confronted Ashley, your sister convinced Dorothy that her own daughter was trying to control her money. Dorothy believed Ashley. She cut off contact with her daughter completely. The daughter filed a complaint with the company, but Ashley had already resigned by then. Dorothy died 6 months later, alone, still believing Ashley was her friend. I felt sick. She turned a mother against her own daughter? That is what the pattern suggests. Isolation, manipulation, theft. Your grandmother was different. She saw through it. Martinez pointed to the second photograph. An elderly man wearing a veteran's cap, Harold Chen, 83 years old, Korean War veteran. Ashley helped him with VA paperwork. During that time, approximately $12,000 disappeared from his accounts. His family suspected Ashley but could not prove it. He passed away last year. The case was closed. She indicated the third photograph, a woman I vaguely recognized. Evelyn Porter. She lived 3 houses down from your grandmother. We found evidence that Ashley attempted to befriend her as well. But Mrs. Porter's son is an attorney. He got involved early. Ashley backed off. Martinez looked at me directly. Your grandmother may have warned her. I stared at the photographs. 3 victims we knew about. How many others? How many people did my sister hurt? We may never know the full count. These are just the ones we can document. Your grandmother's evidence gave us the thread. We are still pulling it. Martinez explained the charges: insurance fraud, forgery, elder financial abuse. Combined, potentially 15 to 25 years if convicted on all counts. She also mentioned my mother. Karen Lawson's signature appears as a witness on multiple fraudulent documents. We need to determine if she was a knowing participant or an unwitting accomplice. Either way, she will be questioned. I left the police station just after 11, stepping out into bright morning sunlight that felt like an assault after the gray institutional interior. I was halfway to my car when I saw her. Ashley. Leaning against my Honda, arms crossed, sunglasses on despite the overcast sky. Her smile was wrong. Too bright, too controlled. Hey sis, we need to talk. I stopped walking. How did you know I was here? I have been watching. I know you went to the insurance company. I know you went to the bank. And now the police station? She pushed off from the car and walked toward me. You are making a huge mistake, Brittany. I did not move closer. I did not run. I just stood there and watched her approach. Look, I know things got complicated, but we are family. We can work this out. She tried a smile, the one that had worked on everyone our whole lives. Whatever Grandma left you, we can split it. 50-50. No lawyers, no drama. Just tell the police you made a mistake. Tell them you misunderstood the documents. I looked at my sister, really looked at her, and saw nothing but calculation behind her eyes. I did not misunderstand anything, Ashley. I saw the forms you forged. 7 of them, over 3 years. I saw Mom's signature witnessing your fraud. There is nothing to work out. The charm dropped instantly. Her face went cold. You think you are so smart. You think you have won. She stepped closer, voice dropping to something dangerous. But you do not know what I know. You do not know what I can do. If you do not back off, I will destroy you. I will tell everyone you manipulated a dying old woman. I will make sure no one believes a word you say. I stood my ground. The documents speak for themselves, Ashley. Grandma knew exactly what you were doing. She prepared for this for 5 years. You cannot manipulate your way out of evidence. Something flickered in her eyes. Fear, maybe. Or rage. This is not over. She turned and walked to her own car, slammed the door, and drove away. I watched her go, my heart pounding but my hand steady. She was right about one thing. It was not over, not even close. Harold Brennan's office felt different this time. Smaller. Heavier with secrets about to be told. He had tea waiting as always. The photograph of Catherine on his desk between us. You have had quite a morning, I hear. Ashley found me outside the police station. Harold nodded, unsurprised. She is desperate. Desperate people make mistakes. He picked up the photograph, looking at it with something like sorrow. You asked about Catherine. You deserve the truth. He set the photograph down gently. Your grandmother was 24 when Catherine was born. Your grandfather was 27. They were young, happy, just starting out. Catherine was their miracle. Harold's voice grew heavier. When Catherine was 4, she was diagnosed with a severe developmental condition. In 1966, there were no services, no support, no understanding. The doctors told Margaret and Franklin that Catherine would never live independently, that she would need constant care forever. He paused. They recommended institutionalization. That is what people did back then. I felt cold. Institutionalization? Margaret refused at first. She fought for a year. But Franklin's health was failing. They had no money, no help from family. Harold looked at me with something like grief in his eyes. And then Margaret discovered she was pregnant again. With your father. The doctors said she could not care for both children. That something had to give. They found a specialized care facility in Pennsylvania. A good one, as these things went. He picked up the photograph again. Catherine was placed there in 1967. This photograph was taken the day before. Margaret visited her every month for 10 years, until Franklin died and the money ran out. His voice dropped. After that, The visits became less frequent. Then stopped entirely. What happened to her? Catherine died in that facility in 1998. She was 36 years old. Margaret never forgave herself. I sat in silence, tears I did not expect rolling down my cheeks. Your grandmother spent her whole life carrying that guilt, Harold continued. When she saw Ashley stealing from her, from an old woman, helpless, dependent on family, she saw Catherine. He looked at me with intensity. She saw every old person abandoned by the people who should have protected them. That is why she fought so hard. That is why she documented everything. It was not about money, it was about making sure no one else was thrown away. I understood now. Finally. Completely. My grandmother lost her daughter, then spent her life trying to protect everyone else's, and my sister tried to steal from her anyway. I wiped my eyes and straightened my shoulders. Ashley threatened me this morning, said she would destroy me. Harold looked at me steadily. What will you do? I am going to finish what my grandmother started. I am going to make sure the truth comes out. All of it. My phone buzzed. A text from Karen. Brittany, Ashley told me what you are doing. We need to talk as a family. Come to dinner tomorrow. Let us fix this. My mother still thought this was something that could be fixed over pot roast. She had no idea what was coming. None of them did. I stood in front of my closet on Sunday afternoon, trying to decide what to wear to my own family's destruction. Dark blue dress, professional but not severe. Flat shoes because I might need to leave quickly. Nothing that said I was celebrating, nothing that said I was mourning. I was going to dinner with my mother and sister. It felt like going to war. The invitation had come from Karen the day before. Come to dinner tomorrow, let us fix this. As if fraud and forgery and 5 years of theft could be fixed over pot roast and mashed potatoes. As if we could sit around the dining room table and pretend we were still a family. But I was going, not because I thought anything could be fixed. Because I needed to see their faces when they realized how much I knew. I put a small folder in my purse. Copies of key documents. Not everything, just enough. I was not going to ambush them with evidence. I was going to let them hang themselves with their own lies first. Harold had called me that morning with advice. Be careful, Miss Lawson. Cornered people are dangerous. Do not go looking for a fight. But do not back down from one either. And remember, you are not there to punish them. You are there for the truth. My grandmother spent 5 years preparing for this moment. I had 5 hours. It would have to be enough. The drive to Parma took 20 minutes. My mother lived in a split-level house from the 70s, beige siding, attached garage. The house I had grown up in after my father married Karen. It never felt like home. Not really. Just a place where I was tolerated until I was old enough to leave. Ashley's BMW was already in the driveway. Sleek, expensive, probably leased. My sister always looked richer than she was. Image was everything to her. Reality was just an inconvenience. I parked on the street and sat in my car for a moment, steadying myself. The folder in my purse felt heavier than it should have. The truth always weighs more than lies. I walked up the familiar path to the front door. The garden was overgrown, weeds pushing through the flower beds. My mother used to keep it perfect. Now she could not be bothered. The door opened before I could knock. Karen stood there in an apron, forcing a smile that did not reach her eyes. Brittany! You came. I was not sure you would. She hugged me. Stiff, brief, performative. The way she always hugged me. Like an obligation she was checking off a list. Come in, come in. Dinner is almost ready. The house smelled like pot roast and something baking. Familiar smells from a childhood that never felt quite right. I walked into the living room and noticed immediately that something was missing. The photographs, the ones that used to line the mantel and fill the shelves. My grandmother's face was nowhere to be seen. Every picture of Margaret had been removed. My grandmother had been erased from this house already, as if she never existed. Before we continue, please subscribe and tell me in the comments where you are watching from. I see everything. I read every comment. Thank you so much for your support. Now back to the story. A voice came from the kitchen. Is that Brittany? Finally decided to show up? Ashley appeared in the doorway. She looked different from the parking lot confrontation. Softer, more controlled. She was wearing a simple sweater and jeans, her hair down, minimal makeup. The concerned sister look. New strategy. She was going to play nice tonight. I wondered how long that would last. We sat down at the dining room table. 3 place settings arranged around the end. Karen at the head, Ashley and me across from each other. Like a tribunal, or a firing squad. The food was served. Pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans. Normal food. As if this were a normal dinner. As if we were a normal family gathering to share a meal and catch up on our lives. Karen spoke first, her voice carefully measured. I thought we could talk like a family. Without lawyers, without police, without all this unpleasantness. She passed the potatoes, not meeting my eyes. We have had a difficult few weeks, losing Margaret, dealing with the estate, but we are still family. That has to mean something. Ashley nodded along, eating calmly, playing her part. Mom is right, Brittany. We got off on the wrong foot. I know I reacted badly at the funeral. I was grieving. We all were. She looked at me with practiced sincerity. I should not have thrown away that policy. That was wrong of me. I am sorry. The apology sounded rehearsed. Because it was. They had practiced this. Probably spent all day preparing their script, deciding who would say what, planning how to manage me back into compliance. I did not respond immediately. I just watched. Ashley's hands were steady, but she was not really eating, just moving food around her plate. Karen kept glancing between us, nervous, waiting for my reaction. I decided to test the water. What exactly are you apologizing for, Ashley? She blinked. For the policy, for being dismissive. Just the policy? Nothing else? Silence. Ashley and Karen exchanged a look. Brief, almost invisible. The silent communication of co-conspirators checking their story. Brittany, please. Karen's voice had an edge now. We are trying to make peace here. Ashley made mistakes. We all make mistakes. But family forgives. That is what family does. I set down my fork. Does family also forge signatures? Does family steal from dying old women? The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Ashley's calm facade cracked. Just for a second. Then she recovered. I do not know what the insurance company told you, but it is not just the insurance company, Ashley. It is the police. Dead silence. Karen's face went gray. Ashley stopped pretending to eat. Let me tell you what I know, I continued. Then you can decide if you still want to make peace. I pulled the folder from my purse and set it on the table between us. 7 forged beneficiary change requests over 3 years. Your signature on all of them, Ashley. Mom's signature as witness on 3 of them. Karen's voice was shaking. I did not know what I was signing. Ashley said what? That Grandma agreed? That it was just paperwork? I opened the folder and spread the documents across the table. But it is not just Grandma, is it, Ashley? The police told me about your other victims. The elderly clients from your job at Lakewood Senior Care. At least 3 other people you tried to steal from. One of them died before anyone figured out what you did. Ashley's face went stone cold. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. I do not know what you are talking about. I looked at her across the table. My sister. The girl I grew up with. The person who had been given everything while I got nothing. And still, it was not enough for her. Did you know about Aunt Lorraine, Ashley? She frowned. Who? Mom's sister. The one she never mentions. Karen's voice was sharp. Brittany, do not... Lorraine was convicted of elder fraud in 1983. Same crime, same pattern. She died alone, in poverty, estranged from everyone. I looked at Ashley directly. That is where this path leads. Prison, then nothing. Ashley's composure finally broke. She slammed her hand on the table. You think you are so righteous, Brittany? You were never there, never helped. Never visited. Her voice was rising, years of resentment pouring out. I was the one taking care of Grandma. I was the one dealing with her bills, her doctors, her endless demands. And what did I get? Nothing. She left everything to you. She pointed at me, fingers shaking. The golden granddaughter who could not be bothered to show up. I let her finish. Let her say everything she had been holding in. Do you have any idea what it was like? Being the one who was always there? Every holiday, every emergency, every middle-of-the-night phone call. And Grandma still treated me like an outsider, still looked at me like I was not really family. Tears now. Real ones, maybe. Or maybe another performance. I could not tell anymore. I gave her years of my life. And she gave everything to you. I waited until she was done. Then I spoke calmly. So you decided to take it yourself. You could not earn it, so you would steal it. That is not injustice, Ashley. That is entitlement. Karen tried to intervene. Both of you, please. I turned to her. And you, Mom. You knew. Maybe not everything, but enough. You watched Ashley help Grandma for years. You signed papers without reading them. Did you ever wonder why Ashley was so interested in an old woman's finances? Karen had no answer, just tears streaming down her face. Grandma knew, by the way, I continued. She knew everything. She spent 5 years documenting what you were doing, building evidence. She hired a lawyer, set up a trust, locked down her accounts. I looked at Ashley. She was never confused. She was watching you. Ashley's face showed shock, then rage, then something that might have been grief. She knew. The whole time, she knew. And she chose to wait. Because she wanted me to be the one to finish it. I stood up from the table. The police are going to interview both of you. Probably this week. They have the forged documents. They have the insurance company's records. They have statements from other victims. This is not something you can talk your way out of. Karen grabbed my arm. Brittany, please. There has to be another way. Can you not tell them you were wrong? That you misunderstood? If you drop the complaint, maybe they will drop the investigation. I am your mother. Does that not mean anything? I looked at her hand on my arm, the same hand that had signed witness to Ashley's forgeries. You are my mother. And you helped Ashley steal from my grandmother. The same grandmother who lost her own daughter because she had no money, no support. I pulled my arm away. Did Ashley tell you about Catherine? Did you even know Grandma had another child? Karen's confusion was genuine. What are you talking about? Of course you did not know. No one in this family tells the truth about anything. Ashley made one last attempt. Brittany, wait. If this is about money, we can work something out. Take the insurance, take the house, take everything. Just tell the police you made a mistake. I cannot go to prison. I cannot. I picked up my purse, left the folder of documents on the table. It was never about the money, Ashley. Grandma did not fight for 5 years because of money. She fought because you were willing to steal from a dying old woman, your own grandmother, and you would have done it to anyone else who trusted you. I walked toward the door. This is not punishment. It is accountability. Keep the copies, read them, understand what you did. And when the police call, I would suggest telling the truth for once. It is the only thing that might help you now. I walked out into the evening air and got into my car. My hands were shaking, my heart was pounding. But I did not feel triumphant. I felt tired, empty, sad. I had just destroyed my family. Or maybe I had just stopped pretending it was not already destroyed. Through the window I could see shadows moving. Karen and Ashley probably arguing, blaming each other, blaming me. That is what people do when the truth is too painful to accept. I thought about my grandmother, about Catherine, about all the old people Ashley had hurt. Some things are more important than family peace. Truth is one of them. My phone buzzed. A text from Detective Martinez. Miss Lawson wanted to let you know. We have made an arrest. Ashley Lawson was taken into custody this evening on charges of insurance fraud, forgery, and elder financial abuse. Her bail hearing is tomorrow. I read the text twice. While I was at dinner, confronting my family, The police were building their case. Ashley had come to that dinner thinking she could manipulate her way out of this. She did not know she was already caught. I started the car and pulled away from the curb. My grandmother once told me that the truth is patient. It can wait longer than any lie. Turns out, so was justice. And now Ashley was going to learn what patience costs. 1 week after Ashley's arrest, I sat at my desk at work, trying to focus on spreadsheets that no longer seemed to matter. The numbers blurred together, meaningless columns of data that had nothing to do with the chaos my life had become. It had been 7 days since my sister was taken into custody. 7 days of phone calls from lawyers, meetings with investigators, questions I did not know how to answer. 7 days of lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I had done the right thing. My coworkers had noticed something was wrong. I could feel their eyes on me when they thought I was not looking. The whispered conversations that stopped when I walked into the break room. "Is everything okay, Brittany?" my supervisor had asked on Tuesday. "Family stuff." "I am handling it." What else could I say? My sister is in jail for trying to steal $2 million from our dead grandmother. My mother might be charged as an accomplice. I am suddenly worth more money than I ever imagined, and I have never felt more alone. Some stories you cannot tell. I looked like someone who had won a war but forgotten why she was fighting. Dark circles under my eyes. Coffee, the only thing keeping me upright. My apartment was a mess of legal documents and takeout containers and clothes I had not bothered to put away. The new normal, if you could call it that. My phone buzzed on my desk. A Cleveland number I had learned to recognize. "Miss Lawson, this is Detective Martinez. I need you to come to the station. We have completed our initial investigation. There are some things you need to see." My stomach tightened. "Good things or bad things?" A pause on the line. "Depends on your perspective. But you should be here. I told my supervisor I had a family emergency and left work early. It was not even a lie anymore. My entire life had become one long family emergency. The Financial Crimes Division was on the 3rd floor of the Cleveland Police Department. Martinez met me in the lobby and led me through a security door, down a hallway lined with offices and interview rooms. "Thank you for coming," she said. "I want to show you what we have put together." She pushed open a door to a large conference room that had been converted into a case headquarters. My breath caught when I saw what was inside. A whiteboard covered one entire wall, photographs, timelines, connection lines drawn in different colored markers. Ashley's photo was in the center, her employee ID picture from Lakewood Senior Care. Lines radiated out from her face to other photographs, other names, other victims. Boxes of documents sat on the table, folders stacked in neat piles, evidence bags containing papers I recognized from my grandmother's files. "This is the Ashley Lawson case," Martinez said. "All of it." I walked closer to the whiteboard, trying to take it all in. After the insurance company filed their report, we subpoenaed records from multiple sources: banks, insurance companies, the county recorder's office, Ashley's former employers. "We have spent the last week building a complete picture." She pointed to the timeline running along the bottom of the board. 5 years of documented fraud attempts against your grandmother. 7 rejected beneficiary changes, multiple forged signatures, unauthorized attempts to access bank accounts, attempts to change property deeds. She looked at me. "Your grandmother's documentation was meticulous. She made our job easy." I stared at the board, at the web of connections, at the evidence my grandmother had spent years building. She had known this day would come, she had prepared for it, and she had not lived to see it. "But here is what concerns us, Miss Lawson." Martinez moved to another section of the whiteboard. 3 more photographs. Elderly faces I did not recognize. Your grandmother was not the only target. Ashley Lawson appears to have a pattern. She pointed to the first photograph. A woman with kind eyes and white hair. Dorothy Hendricks, 78 years old. She was one of Ashley's clients at Lakewood Senior Care. Her daughter noticed discrepancies in her mother's accounts about 2 years ago. Small amounts missing each month. Nothing dramatic, just a steady drain. Martinez's expression darkened. When the daughter confronted Ashley, "Your sister did something clever." She convinced Dorothy that her own daughter was trying to control her money, that her daughter was the one who could not be trusted. I felt sick. What happened? Dorothy believed Ashley. She cut off contact with her daughter completely, stopped returning calls, refused to see her. Martinez paused. The daughter filed a complaint with Lakewood Senior Care, but Ashley had already resigned by then, moved on to the next opportunity. And Dorothy? She died 6 months later, alone, in a nursing home, still believing her daughter was the enemy, still believing Ashley was her friend. I had to sit down. My legs would not hold me. She turned a mother against her own daughter. That is what the pattern suggests. Isolation, manipulation, theft. It is textbook elder financial abuse. Your grandmother was different because she saw through it. She documented instead of being documented. Martinez pointed to the second photograph. An elderly man wearing a baseball cap with military insignia. Harold Chen, 83 years old. Korean War veteran. He hired Ashley to help him with VA paperwork, navigating benefits, filing claims, that kind of thing. During that time, approximately $12,000 disappeared from his accounts. She shook her head. His family suspected Ashley. They confronted her, but she had explanations for everything. Fees she had paid on his behalf, expenses he had approved. They could not prove anything. What happened to him? He passed away last year. The case was closed due to lack of evidence and no living complainant. Martinez moved to the third photograph, a woman I vaguely recognized, Evelyn Porter. She lived 3 houses down from your grandmother on the same street in Lakewood. We found evidence that Ashley attempted to befriend her as well, offered to help with her finances, started building the same kind of relationship. I remembered the name. My grandmother had mentioned Mrs. Porter sometimes. They played cards together. But Mrs. Porter's son is an attorney, Martinez continued. A corporate lawyer in New York. He got involved early when his mother mentioned her helpful new friend. Ran background checks, asked questions Ashley could not answer. Martinez almost smiled. Ashley backed off immediately, never bothered Mrs. Porter again. She looked at me directly. We think your grandmother may have warned her. We found a note in Margaret's files. A reminder to call Evelyn. Tell her about Ashley. My grandmother had protected her neighbor. Even while she was being victimized herself, she tried to warn others. How many, detective? How many people did my sister hurt? Martinez sighed. We may never know the full count. These are just the ones we can document. There may be others who died without family to notice. Others who were too embarrassed to report. Others who still do not know they were victims. She gestured at the whiteboard. Your grandmother's evidence gave us the thread. We are still pulling it. A woman entered the room. Mid-40s, sharp suit, serious expression. Martinez introduced her as Rebecca Torres, Assistant District Attorney. Miss Lawson. Torres shook my hand firmly. Thank you for your cooperation. Your grandmother's documentation has been invaluable. She sat down across from me and opened her own folder. I want you to understand what we are charging and why. She pulled out a document covered in legal language. Insurance fraud, 1 count, felony, forgery, 7 counts, multiple felonies, elder financial abuse, 3 counts, felonies, attempted theft by deception, multiple counts. She looked up at me. Combined, these charges carry a potential sentence of 15 to 25 years. 25 years? Maximum. Realistically, with a plea deal, we are looking at 5 to 10. But Miss Lawson, I need you to understand something. She leaned forward. Your sister is a serial predator. She targeted the most vulnerable people in our community, repeatedly, over years. She isolated them from their families. She manipulated their trust. She stole their money and their dignity. Torres's voice was hard. The court takes that seriously, as do I. She explained the civil implications as well. I had grounds to sue for recovery of stolen funds, damages, legal fees. That was separate from the criminal case and entirely my decision. I nodded, overwhelmed, trying to process. What about my mother? Karen Lawson? Torres and Martinez exchanged a glance. "Your mother is complicated," Torres said carefully. "We have interviewed her. She claims she did not know what she was signing, that Ashley told her it was routine paperwork. Do you believe her?" Torres considered the question. "I am not sure. But I am also not sure we can prove otherwise. Willful ignorance is difficult to prosecute. For now, she is a witness, not a defendant. But that could change depending on what else we find." Martinez offered to show me the recording of my mother's interview. I hesitated, then agreed. I needed to understand. They led me to a small room with a monitor. Martinez queued up the video. Karen appeared on screen, sitting in an interview room similar to the one we had just left. She looked older than I remembered. Smaller. Her hair was not done, her makeup was missing, her hands fidgeted constantly with the strap of her purse. Martinez was on screen across from her asking questions. "Mrs. Lawson, your signature appears on 3 forged documents. Can you explain that?" Karen's voice was thin, defensive. I did not know they were forged. Ashley said Margaret agreed to everything. She said it was just paperwork, family business, nothing illegal. "Did you read what you were signing?" A long pause. Karen looked down at her hands. "I trusted my daughter." "I should not have had to read everything," Martinez pressed. "Did you ever ask Margaret directly? Confirm that she had agreed to these changes?" Karen's voice got smaller. "No. Ashley said it would upset her, that Margaret was getting confused and we needed to handle things quietly." The interview continued, but I had heard enough. Torres stopped the video. "Your mother made choices, Miss Lawson. Whether they were criminal choices is harder to prove." I stared at the frozen image of Karen on the screen. My mother. The woman who had raised me, or at least been present while I raised myself. The woman who had chosen Ashley over me at every turn. She chose Ashley, every single time, even when it meant helping steal from an old woman. I was not sure which was worse, if she knew what she was doing, or if she simply did not bother to find out. I left the police station in the late afternoon. The sun was too bright, the world too normal. People walked past me on the sidewalk, going about their lives, unaware that mine had just been turned inside out again. I did not go home. Instead, I drove to Lakewood, to my grandmother's street. I parked outside her small Cape Cod house and just sat there, looking at the place where everything had started. The house was empty now. Harold was handling the estate. Eventually it would be sold, or kept, or turned into something new. I had not decided yet. My sister was a serial predator of the elderly. My mother was either complicit or willfully blind, and I was the one who brought it all down. Was this what Grandma wanted? Her family destroyed? Her granddaughter in prison? Or did she just want the truth? I thought about Dorothy Hendricks, dying alone because Ashley turned her against her own daughter. I thought about Harold Chen, his savings stolen while he dealt with memories of a war 60 years past. I thought about Evelyn Porter, saved only because her son was a lawyer. How many others were not saved? How many people did Ashley hurt that we would never know about? I pulled out my phone and looked at a photograph of my grandmother. Taken last Christmas. She was smiling, holding a cup of tea, looking at the camera with those sharp eyes that missed nothing. "This is not about destroying my family, Grandma. Is it?" Her voice came back to me, clear as if she were sitting in the passenger seat. "It is not about money, Brittany. It is about truth. It is about what is right." The truth was that my sister was dangerous. Someone had to stop her. My grandmother could not, but she made sure I could. That evening I was sitting in my apartment with the lights off when my phone rang. Harold Brennan. Miss Lawson. I hope I am not calling too late. "What is it, Harold?" "Ashley's lawyer contacted me this afternoon. Your sister wants to make a deal." "A deal?" "She will plead guilty to misdemeanor charges if you agree not to pursue civil action. She wants to minimize her sentence. She is desperate." I almost laughed. Why would I agree to that? After everything she has done? Harold paused. "Because she says she has information about your grandmother's last days. Something you do not know. something she has never told anyone. I sat up straighter. What kind of information? She would not say. Only that it is about Margaret's final hours, and that she will only tell you in person. My sister wanted to meet, face to face, just the two of us. Harold continued. She is asking for a meeting, her lawyer's office, neutral ground, both attorneys present. She says she will tell you everything if you will just listen. I was silent for a long moment, processing. My sister has lied to me my entire life. Why would I believe her now? Harold's voice was gentle. Because desperate people sometimes tell the truth. It is the only currency they have left. I did not trust Ashley. I never would again. But Harold was right. Desperate people do strange things. And if there was something about Grandma's last days that I did not know, something Ashley had been hiding, I needed to hear it. Even if it came from a liar. Even if it was just one more manipulation. Some truths are worth the risk. 3 weeks after Ashley's arrest, I was sitting in my apartment on a Tuesday evening when the phone rang. An unknown number. I almost did not answer, but something made me pick up. "Miss Lawson?" A man's voice, professional and measured. "This is David Chen, attorney for Ashley Lawson. My client has requested a meeting with you. She says she has information you need to hear. Information about your grandmother's last days." I sat back against my couch cushions, processing. Ashley had been in county jail for 3 weeks. Bail was set at $200,000. She could not pay it. Neither could our mother. I could have paid it without noticing. I did not. Now she wanted to talk. Now she had information. Why would I believe anything she has to say? Chen's voice remained neutral. "I understand your skepticism, but my client is not asking you to drop charges. She is not asking for anything except the chance to be heard. She says she has something to tell you about Margaret Lawson's final hours, something she has never told anyone." I thought about Harold Brennan's words from days ago. Desperate people sometimes tell the truth. It is the only currency they have left. My grandmother spent her last years documenting everything Ashley did. But there were gaps, things I did not know, things that happened when I was not there. If Ashley knew something about Grandma's final days, I needed to hear it, even if it was another manipulation, even if it was another lie. When and where? Tomorrow, 2 p.m. My office? Downtown Cleveland. Neutral ground. Both attorneys present if you wish. I called Harold that night. He agreed to come with me. "I will not let you walk into this alone, Miss Lawson. Whatever she has to say, you should have support." That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering what Ashley could possibly tell me that would matter. What secret had she been keeping? What did she know about my grandmother's death that I did not? The questions followed me into my dreams. David Chen's law office was in a modest building downtown, not a fancy firm. Chen was court-appointed after Ashley's case became too complex for the public defender's office. He was doing his best with a difficult client. I arrived with Harold at 1:45. The waiting room was small, worn furniture, outdated magazines. A receptionist who looked overworked barely glanced up as we entered. This was where Ashley's life had led. From a BMW and designer clothes to a court-appointed lawyer and county jail. I did not feel satisfaction, just a deep, tired sadness. Harold touched my arm. "Remember, whatever she says, you do not have to respond. Listen, observe, do not let her manipulate you." I nodded. "I know who my sister is." "Do you? People change when they are cornered, sometimes for better, sometimes for worse." Chen appeared in the doorway. "Miss Lawson, we are ready." I followed him down a narrow hallway to a small conference room. One window, harsh fluorescent lights, a table with 4 chairs. Chen sat on one side, and beside him was Ashley. The last time I saw my sister, she was being put into a police car outside our mother's house. 3 weeks in county jail had changed her. No makeup, hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She had lost weight, and not in a healthy way. Her cheeks were hollow, her collarbones visible beneath the simple blouse she wore. Dark circles under her eyes suggested she had not been sleeping any better than I had. My sister had always been perfect, polished, in control. The woman across from me looked broken. Our eyes met as I entered the room. No hostility, no charm, just exhaustion. "Hey, Britt." "Ashley." I sat down across from her. Harold took the chair beside me. The table between us felt like a battlefield. Chen spoke first. "Thank you for coming, Miss Lawson. My client asked for this meeting. She has information she wants to share, and she wants to explain some things." He glanced at Ashley, then back at me. "This is not a negotiation. She is not asking you to drop charges. She just wants to be heard. After that, whatever you decide is up to you." I looked at my sister, waited. Ashley cleared her throat. Her voice was rough, like she had not been using it much. "I know you have no reason to believe anything I say. I have lied to you, to Mom, to everyone." She looked down at her hands on the table. I noticed they were trembling slightly. "But there is something you do not know. About Grandma, about her last days. I think you need to hear it. And I think I need to say it." I kept my expression neutral. "I am listening." Ashley took a breath and began. I did not start out trying to steal from her. "I need you to understand that. When I first started helping Grandma with her paperwork, I really was just helping. She was getting older. Things were getting confusing for her. I wanted to be useful." She paused, gathering herself. "Then I saw her accounts, the insurance policy, the savings. She had so much more than anyone knew, and she was just sitting on it, not spending it, not enjoying it, just hoarding it." Her voice took on an edge of old resentment. And I thought, why? Why save all this money if you are never going to use it? I waited. Let her talk. I was drowning, Brittany. Credit card debt, car payments, rent I could barely make. I looked successful, but I was one missed paycheck from disaster. She laughed bitterly, and there was Grandma with hundreds of thousands of dollars living like a miser, clipping coupons. Driving a car older than both of us. I told myself I was just redistributing, taking what she was not using. I told myself she would not even notice. "She noticed," I said quietly. "She noticed everything." Ashley nodded, her eyes glistening. I know that now. But back then, I convinced myself she was too old, too confused. I needed her to be confused, so I could keep telling myself what I was doing was okay. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "The first time the insurance company rejected my form, I panicked. I thought I had been caught. I thought police would show up any day. But nothing happened. So I tried again. And again. Each rejection made me more desperate, more creative. I could not stop. I was in too deep." Ashley looked at me directly. I became someone I did not recognize. And the worst part? I blamed Grandma for it, for making me become this. I let the silence sit between us. Processing. Waiting. "There is something else," Ashley said. "Something you do not know about the end." She took another shaky breath. "You were not there when Grandma was in the hospital. Those last few days." "But I was." I stiffened. "You visited her? You never said—" "No one knew. I went alone, the night before she died." I stared at my sister, trying to read her face. What happened? Ashley's voice dropped, almost to a whisper. She was so small in that bed, so fragile. I almost did not go in. I stood outside her room for 10 minutes trying to decide, but something pulled me inside. Guilt, maybe, or hope. I thought maybe I could fix things, apologize, get her to change the policy, one last try. She wiped her eyes again. She was awake, weak but awake, and her eyes, Brittany. Her eyes were sharp, like they had always been. She was not confused at all. She looked at me and said, "I know why you are here, Ashley." I tried to explain, tried to apologize, tried to make her understand why I needed the money, why I had done what I did. She just listened. Did not interrupt, did not argue. Ashley's voice broke. When I finished talking, she reached out and took my hand. Her grip was so weak, but she held on. And she said something I will never forget. Ashley looked at me, tears streaming down her face now. She said, "I forgive you, Ashley, But I do not trust you. The forgiveness is for my soul. The trust is for Brittany. She is the one who will do what is right. You never could." The room was completely silent. I could hear my own heartbeat. "I left that hospital room knowing everything was over," Ashley continued. "She was not going to change the policy. She was not going to give me anything, and she was at peace with that. She died the next morning. Those were the last words she ever said to me. I forgive you, but I do not trust you." I sat with that for a long moment. My grandmother spent her last night on earth forgiving the woman who tried to rob her. That was so like her. Grace that no one deserved. "Why are you telling me this, Ashley? What do you want from me?" Ashley shook her head. "Nothing. I am not asking you to drop charges. I know I am going to prison. My lawyer says probably 3 to 5 years. She looked at me with something that might have been acceptance. "I just needed you to know that Grandma was not fooled, not even at the end, and I needed to say it out loud. What I did, who I became." She paused. "The program here, in county. There is a counselor. She has been helping me understand why I did this. They call it entitled thinking, believing the world owes you something." She almost smiled, but it was sad. "I had it bad, Brittany. I do not know if I can fix it. But I am trying to understand it. I do not expect you to write back if I write to you. But I wanted you to know I am not just sitting in there feeling sorry for myself. I am trying to become someone Grandma would not be ashamed of. Maybe it is too late, but I am trying." I looked at my sister across that table. The woman who had lied to me my whole life. The woman who had tried to steal nearly $2 million from our dying grandmother. The woman who had turned other old people against their own families. And I saw something I had not expected. Not a monster. Just a broken person who had made terrible choices and was finally starting to face them. "I am not going to drop the charges, Ashley. You are right about that. What you did was wrong. To Grandma, to those other people, to our family." I paused. "But I am not going to pursue civil damages beyond what the court orders. You will go to prison. You will pay restitution. But I will not try to destroy you completely." Ashley looked up, surprised. "Why?" "Because Grandma forgave you, and maybe someday I will too, but not today, and not for a long time." I stood to leave. "Today I am just tired of hating you." Before I reached the door, Ashley spoke again. "Wait, there is one more thing." She reached into a folder Chen had been holding, pulled out an envelope, old and yellowed. "Grandma gave this to me that night. At the hospital. She said to give it to you when I was ready to tell the truth." She held out the envelope with trembling hands. "I was not ready. Until now." I took the envelope. The handwriting on the front was immediately familiar. My grandmother's careful script, for Brittany, from your grandmother's last night. She wrote this the night before she died? Ashley nodded. She knew she did not have long. She wanted you to have her final words. Her voice cracked. "I have been carrying it for a month." It felt like a weight I could not put down. I looked at the envelope in my hands. My grandmother's last letter, written hours before she died, carried by Ashley through her arrest, her arraignment, her weeks in jail. I am not reading this here. I tucked the envelope into my purse. "Thank you for telling me the truth, Ashley. Finally." I turned to leave. At the door, I paused and looked back. Ashley looked smaller than ever. Alone at that table, her lawyer beside her, but somehow still alone. The confident, manipulative sister I had known my whole life was gone. In her place was just a woman facing the consequences of her choices. "Good luck at the trial, Ashley. I mean that." She looked up at me with red eyes. "I know. That is what makes it worse." I walked out of that office with Harold beside me, the envelope heavy in my bag. My grandmother's last letter, written the night before she died. Whatever was inside, it had waited a month to reach me. It could wait a little longer. until I was ready to let her go. The morning of the sentencing hearing, I woke before my alarm. 5:47, the numbers glowing red in the darkness of my bedroom. I lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, trying to remember how to breathe normally. Today my sister would be sentenced for her crimes. Today it would finally be over. I got out of bed and moved through my morning routine with careful deliberation. Shower, coffee, clothes laid out the night before, a dark blue dress, professional but not severe. I was not going to a funeral, but I was not celebrating either. I looked at myself in the mirror while I dried my hair. The woman staring back at me looked older than 3 months ago. The lines around my eyes were deeper. My face was thinner. Grief ages you, so does truth. On my nightstand sat the envelope Ashley had given me 3 weeks ago. My grandmother's final letter, still sealed. I had carried it everywhere since that day, to work, to meetings with Harold, to the grocery store. It went where I went, like a talisman I was not ready to open. I touched it now, running my fingers over my grandmother's handwriting. For Brittany, from your grandmother's last night. Maybe today, after it was finished. Maybe then I would be ready. I left the envelope on the nightstand and went to finish getting dressed. Harold called at 8:15. "Are you ready, Miss Lawson?" I do not know. Is anyone ever ready for something like this? No. But you show up anyway. That is what your grandmother would have done. I will meet you at the courthouse. 9 o'clock. The Cuyahoga County Courthouse was an imposing stone building in downtown Cleveland. A century of justice had passed through its doors, cases of every kind, from petty theft to murder. Today it would add one more story to its history. The story of a woman who tried to steal from her own grandmother. I parked in the garage and walked toward the main entrance. The morning sun was sharp against the building's facade, making me squint. A small cluster of people stood near the doors, and I realized with a sinking feeling that some of them were reporters. Elder fraud cases do not usually draw cameras, but sister sends sister to prison apparently does. A reporter approached me with a microphone. "Miss Lawson, can you comment on—" I walked past without responding. I had nothing to say to them. My story would speak for itself. Inside the courthouse, I passed through security. Metal detectors, the smell of old wood and anxiety. Harold was waiting in the lobby, dressed in his usual understated suit. "The prosecution is ready," he said. "The defense has accepted the plea." "She is not fighting it?" "She stopped fighting weeks ago." "I think meeting with you changed something." I nodded, not sure what to say. Then I saw her, Karen, my mother, sitting on a bench across the lobby, alone. She was clutching her purse like a lifeline, her knuckles white. She looked smaller than I had ever seen her. Older. Defeated. Our eyes met across the distance. Karen opened her mouth as if to speak. Her lips formed my name. I looked away and walked toward the courtroom. I was not ready to talk to my mother. I might never be. Harold held the door for me. "This is it, Miss Lawson. After today you can start to heal. Can I? Or will this follow me forever?" Both. That is the nature of family wounds. They heal, but they scar. I took a breath and stepped inside. Courtroom 4B was smaller than I expected. Wood-paneled walls, high ceilings, an American flag behind the judge's bench. The gallery was half full, some press in the back rows. Detective Martinez sitting near the aisle. A few faces I did not recognize. I took my seat behind the prosecution table. A DA Torres was already there, her files organized in neat stacks, her expression focused. Harold sat beside me, a steady presence. I was here as a witness, a victim's representative, and a sister. I was not sure which role was hardest. A side door opened, and Ashley was led in by a bailiff. She was wearing civilian clothes for the sentencing. A simple gray dress, conservative, appropriate. Her hair was pulled back, no makeup, no jewelry, no performance. She looked like a woman who had stopped pretending. Our eyes met across the courtroom. She nodded slightly. Not a greeting, more like acknowledgement. "I am here, you are here. This is happening." I did not respond. I just watched as she took her seat beside her attorney. All rise. Judge Eleanor Whitfield entered the courtroom. 60s, silver hair, reading glasses, an expression that suggested she had seen everything and was not easily impressed. She took her seat and surveyed the room. "Be seated. We are here for sentencing in the matter of State of Ohio versus Ashley Marie Lawson." She consulted her notes. "The defendant has entered guilty pleas to 3 counts of felony fraud, 4 counts of forgery, and 2 counts of elder financial abuse." She looked up. "Before I deliver the sentence, I will hear statements from both parties." Torres stood. "Your Honor, the state would like to present a victim impact statement." "Proceed." Torres cleared her throat. This statement was prepared by Margaret Eleanor Lawson and entrusted to her attorney, Harold Brennan, with instructions to present it at sentencing. I felt my breath catch. I did not know this existed. I did not know my grandmother had prepared anything. Torres opened a folder. The courtroom went completely silent. "My name is Margaret Lawson," Torres read. "I am 82 years old. By the time you hear this, I will be gone. But I want my voice to be part of this moment. I want you to understand what was done to me." I felt Harold's hand on my shoulder, steadying me. For 5 years, I watched my own granddaughter try to steal everything I had. She forged my signature. She lied to my family. She tried to convince everyone I was losing my mind. Torres paused, letting the words settle. I was not losing my mind. I knew exactly what was happening. I documented everything. I prepared. I waited. I could not stop the tears from coming. My grandmother's voice, speaking from beyond the grave, filling this courtroom with truth. Ashley is not a monster. She is a woman who lost her way. She chose greed over love. She chose lies over truth. She chose herself over everyone else. I forgave her for that. On my last night on earth, I told her so. But forgiveness is not the same as freedom from consequences. Justice matters. Accountability matters. The truth matters. Torres turned the page. I ask the court to hold my granddaughter accountable for what she has done. Not for revenge, not for cruelty, but because every person who was hurt by her deserves to know that their suffering was seen. Dorothy Hendricks, who died alone because Ashley turned her against her own daughter. Harold Chen, who served his country and was repaid with theft. And me, an old woman who spent her final years fighting a battle no grandmother should have to fight. Torres looked up at the judge. The truth is patient. It can wait longer than any lie. Today, the truth has finally arrived. I hope it brings peace. She set down the paper. The courtroom was silent. I wiped my eyes with trembling hands. My grandmother had prepared for this. Even in death, she was still fighting. Judge Whitfield turned to the defense table. Does the defendant wish to make a statement before sentencing? David Chen nodded to Ashley. She stood slowly, gripping the edge of the table. Your Honor, I do not have a prepared speech. I do not think I could write one that would be good enough. Her voice was rough but steady. My grandmother's words. She said, I am not a monster. I am not sure that is true. I did terrible things. To her, to other people, to my own family. She took a breath. I told myself I deserved what I was taking, that I was owed something for all my sacrifices. I was wrong. I was just a thief who could not admit it. She turned slightly, addressing the gallery. To Dorothy Hendricks's family, I am sorry I took her final years from you. To Harold Chen's family, I am sorry I stole from a man who gave so much. Her voice broke. To my grandmother, I know you cannot hear me. But I am sorry I made you spend your last years protecting yourself from me. Then she looked directly at me. And to my sister. You did what was right, even when it cost you everything. Grandma chose well. I understand that now. She paused. I do not expect you to forgive me. But I want you to know, I finally see clearly. Whatever happens next, I earned it. She sat down. Her attorney touched her arm. a small comfort in a terrible moment. My sister had finally stopped performing. Whether the change was real, only time would tell. Judge Whitfield removed her reading glasses and looked at Ashley. I have reviewed all the evidence, heard the statements, and considered the defendant's plea. Her voice was measured, but firm. Ms. Lawson, your crimes represent a systematic betrayal of trust. You targeted vulnerable people, the elderly, the isolated, those who depended on you. You manipulated your own grandmother for years. You stole from people who trusted you. These are not mistakes. They are choices, and choices have consequences. She picked up a document. On the charges of felony fraud, forgery, and elder financial abuse, I sentence you to 6 years in state prison. You will serve a minimum of 4 years before parole eligibility. Ashley closed her eyes briefly, absorbing the blow. Upon release, you will be on probation for 5 years. You are permanently barred from working in any capacity involving elderly persons or financial services. Full restitution is ordered to all identified victims and their estates. The judge looked at Ashley directly. Do you understand the terms of this sentence? Yes, Your Honor. From somewhere behind me in the gallery, I heard a sound. A sob. Karen, her face buried in her hands, shoulders shaking. I glanced back. My mother had finally lost the daughter she had chosen over everyone else. I wondered if she understood yet that it was her own blindness that led here. The gavel came down. This court is adjourned. The sound echoed like a period at the end of a sentence. Final, complete. It was over. Legally, officially over. 6 years. That is what my grandmother's final years were worth to a court of law. I walked out of the courtroom into the hallway. Harold stayed close beside me. Detective Martinez approached. Your grandmother would be proud. She fought for years. You finished it. Thank you, Detective. For everything. She shook my hand and walked away. I moved toward the exit, avoiding eye contact with the reporters who were packing up their equipment. Then I saw Karen, hovering near the door, eyes red and swollen, waiting. I changed direction and walked the other way. Found a side exit, pushed through into the cold February air. Not today. I could not do that today. Harold found me outside. What will you do now, Miss Lawson? I reached into my purse and pulled out the envelope I had been carrying for 3 weeks. Something I should have done a while ago. He looked at the letter in my hands. She waited a long time to say goodbye. Do not keep her waiting much longer. I nodded. He squeezed my arm once, then walked away, leaving me alone with my grandmother's final words. The cemetery was quiet in the late afternoon light. I had not been here since the funeral, had not been able to face it. My grandmother's grave was in a peaceful section near a row of old oak trees. The headstone was simple, elegant, exactly what she would have wanted. Margaret Eleanor Lawson, 1942 to 2024. The truth is patient. They put her words on her grave. It was perfect. I knelt in the grass beside the stone, not caring about my dress, and touched the cold marble. I finished it, Grandma. The truth came out. Justice was served. My voice broke. Ashley is going to prison. Mom has to live with what she enabled, and I am still here, carrying everything you left me. The wind rustled through the oak trees. Somewhere in the distance, a bird called. I pulled out the envelope, held it in both hands, looked at my name written in her careful script. I am finally ready to hear your last words. I slid my finger under the seal. Whatever you wrote that final night, I am ready now. Tell me how to live after all of this. Tell me what comes next. The envelope was old and soft in my hands, the paper worn from weeks of being carried everywhere I went. I sat on the back porch of my new home, a small craftsman house in Lakewood not far from where my grandmother had lived, and finally opened her last letter. 2 pages. Her careful handwriting filled every line. Dated the night before she died. My dearest Brittany, for after the storm. If you are reading this, the storm has passed. The truth is out. Justice has been done. I want you to understand why I chose this path, why I put this burden on your shoulders. I could have confronted Ashley years ago. I could have called the police. I could have cut her off and died in peace. But I did not. Because I wanted to teach you something more important than revenge. I wanted you to see that truth does not need to fight. It only needs to wait. I wanted you to learn that you can protect yourself without becoming cruel. And I wanted you to know, beyond any doubt, that you are worthy of being chosen. Not because you are better than Ashley, but because you are honest, because you are kind, because you are real. Those qualities are rare, Brittany. Protect them. I wiped my eyes and kept reading. By now you have learned about Catherine, my first daughter, your father's sister. I have carried that loss for 57 years. It taught me that some wounds never fully heal, but they can become something else. They can become wisdom. They can become purpose. Let your wounds do the same. I turned to the second page. My grandmother's handwriting was slightly shakier here, written late at night by a woman who knew she would not see another sunrise. The money is yours now, all of it. Do with it what feels right. But I have a request, not a command, a hope. Use some of it to help others like me. There are so many of us, Brittany. Old people with no one to protect them. Old people whose families see them as bank accounts instead of human beings. Old people who are told they are confused when they are seeing clearly for the first time. I was lucky. I had resources. I had a sharp mind. I had you. Most do not have any of those things. If you can find a way to help them, whether through money or time or just attention, please do. Not because I am asking, because it is right. If you do this, my life will have meant something beyond myself, and Catherine's loss will finally have a purpose. Her closing words blurred through my tears. I am writing this, knowing I will not see the sunrise. My body has given up, but my spirit is at peace. I have done everything I can. The rest is up to you. Live well, sweetheart. Be happy. Find love. Build something that lasts. And when you are old like me, sitting on your own porch with your own tea, remember, the truth is patient, and so is love. With all my heart, forever. Grandma Margaret. I read the letter twice, 3 times. Let her voice fill my head one last time. She knew she was dying, and she spent her last night writing to me, not about money, not about revenge, about purpose. That was 8 months ago. 8 months since I buried my grandmother. 8 months since I sent my sister to prison. 8 months of learning how to live in the wreckage of my family. I quit my administrative job 3 months after the sentencing. I did not need to push paper for someone else anymore. The inheritance gave me freedom I had never imagined. I used it carefully, the way my grandmother would have wanted. Paid off my small debts. Bought this house. Invested wisely. My grandmother taught me about compound interest when I was 12 years old. I finally understood the lesson. My new routine was quieter than my old life. Mornings on this porch with coffee, watching the neighborhood wake up. Afternoons working on the project that had consumed me for months. Evenings reading, walking, learning to be alone without being lonely. I discovered that peace does not come from having everything figured out. It comes from accepting that some things will never be figured out. The house was filled with pieces of my grandmother's home now, her teacups in my kitchen, her books on my shelves, her photographs on my walls. The chess set from her porch sat on mine, pieces always set up, waiting for a game that would never come. I did not play much, but sometimes I set up the pieces and just looked at them. Grandma taught me that chess is not about the pieces you capture. It is about the positions you create. She was positioning pieces her whole life. I was just now understanding the game. But the biggest change came from her last request, the thing she hoped I would do with her money. It took 3 months of planning. Lawyers and paperwork and meetings with people who knew how to turn ideas into organizations. But it was finally real. The Margaret Lawson Foundation for Elder Financial Protection. A small office downtown. 2 part-time employees, 1 very dedicated volunteer. Me. We did not have much yet, but we had enough to start. Our work was simple but important. Free document review for elderly individuals who wanted someone to look over their paperwork. Legal referrals for anyone who suspected financial abuse. Education programs at senior centers, teaching people how to protect themselves. A hotline for families who thought something might be wrong. We helped old people look at their paperwork. We asked questions, we paid attention. All the things my grandmother did for herself, we did for people who could not. In 4 months, we helped 63 people. We caught 2 cases of suspected fraud. Both were now with law enforcement. We reunited one elderly man with his daughter after his caregiver tried to isolate him. Dorothy Hendricks's story, happening again. But this time, someone was watching. I was not a lawyer. I was not a social worker. I was just someone who read documents carefully and asked questions no one else was asking. But it turned out that was exactly what was needed. Most fraud is not sophisticated. It just counts on no one paying attention. We paid attention. I thought about naming the foundation after Catherine too, but my grandmother never wanted anyone to know about her. So instead, there was a small plaque in the office. In memory of Catherine, 1962 to 1998. The girl we could not keep. Grandma's 2 daughters, together at last. 1 in name, 1 in spirit. 2 months after the sentencing, a letter arrived at my apartment. Not email, not text. A real letter, handwritten, from Karen. My mother apologizing. Imperfectly, incompletely. But sincerely, or at least as sincerely as Karen was capable of. She said she finally understood what she had enabled, what her blindness had cost. She said she was sorry for choosing Ashley, for not seeing me, for letting my grandmother fight alone. I agreed to meet her. 1 coffee, public place. No promises. Karen looked older than I remembered. Fragile, lost. She cried through most of our conversation. I did not. I am sorry, Brittany, for everything, for choosing Ashley, for not seeing you, for letting your grandmother fight alone. I told her the truth. I do not hate you, Mom. But I cannot pretend everything is okay. Maybe one day we can build something new. But it will be different. Not what we had before. She nodded. She did not argue. That was new. We talked now. Once a month, sometimes twice. It was not warm. It was not family dinners and holiday hugs. But it was honest. And that was more than we ever had before. Some doors close forever. Others can be opened a crack. I did not need to decide yet which one this was. 6 months into Ashley's sentence, a letter arrived from state prison. I almost did not open it, but my grandmother's voice echoed in my head. The truth matters, even uncomfortable truth. Ashley's handwriting was smaller than I remembered, neater, like she was taking more care. I am in a program here, therapy, group sessions, learning about why people like me do what we do. They call it entitled thinking, believing the world owes you something. I had it bad, Brittany. I do not know if I can fix it, but I am trying to understand it. I do not expect you to write back, but I wanted you to know I am not just sitting here feeling sorry for myself. I am trying to become someone Grandma would not be ashamed of. Maybe it is too late, but I am trying. I did not write back. Not yet. But I did not throw the letter away either. I put it in a drawer with my grandmother's letter, Catherine's photograph, the old insurance policy. Evidence of a family that broke apart and might, someday, find a way to become something new. A letter came from Ashley every few months now, each one a little more self-aware than the last. Whether it was genuine growth or prison manipulation, I could not tell, but my grandmother forgave her, so I was leaving the door open. Just a crack. I was sitting on my porch this evening, the same chair where I first read my grandmother's letter, when I realized how much had changed. I used to feel invisible, the daughter no one noticed, the sister who was never quite enough. My grandmother saw me. She chose me, not because I was perfect, but because I was real. The money helped. The justice felt right. But what I really inherited was simpler than that. I inherited the knowledge that I am worthy of being believed in, and that is worth more than any insurance policy. I looked at the framed photograph of Margaret on the side table. Next to it, a small plaque with her words. The truth is patient. It can wait longer than any lie. The chessboard sat between two porch chairs, pieces set up, waiting. Sometimes I imagined my grandmother across from me, teaching me one more lesson. The game is not over when you think it is. Watch, wait, position your pieces, and when the time comes, move with confidence. If you are listening to this story, maybe you understand. Maybe you have been the invisible one, the overlooked one, the one who was never quite enough. Maybe your family has secrets too. Maybe someone you trusted turned out to be someone else entirely. I want you to know something my grandmother taught me. The truth is patient. It waits for the right moment and the right person. Maybe that person is you. Thank you for letting me share my story. It was not easy to tell, but some stories need to be heard. If this meant something to you, if you have ever felt invisible in your own family, or wondered if anyone really sees you, I would love to hear your story too. Leave a comment below. Tell me where you are watching from. Tell me what part of this story touched your heart. And if you want to hear more stories like this, stories about truth and justice and the strength it takes to stand up for what is right, make sure you subscribe so you do not miss the next one. Take care of yourselves, and take care of the elders in your life. They see more than you know, and they might be waiting for you to see them too. Until next time. This story is fictionalized for dramatic effect.